What is going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How is everybody doing out there in Twitter world, YouTube world? Shout out to everybody watching this now. Shout out to everybody watching this in the future. Appreciate you guys' continued support. What's up, chat? Everybody in there looking beautiful. All the beautiful people. Talos, Ray, Shon, Sue, everybody. Got the panel members here. Got our guest in chat as well too. But once again, let everybody know the Shop Podcast is live. Retweet that link on Twitter. Hive as well. Now that that's back, I posted it there. So hi to everybody viewing us from there as well too. Shout out to you guys. But we got a phenomenal show lined up. It's been another amazing week. We got a first time special guest. You guys know anytime we have a first time guest, we love to do it big. So go show some love. All of the information is down in the description below. Go show some love. Make sure make them real comfortable here at the Shop Podcast. So we're gonna get into it. Shout out to General Spartan, Jedi Knight, Andrew, Talos, everybody hanging out in chat, man. Appreciate you guys. What's up, Asante? Coming through. I see you, bro. My bro Asante in the chat as well. But let's go ahead and throw this over to our first time guest, man. A member of the Xbox Factor podcast. Shout out to Boom. You guys know Boom. Shout out to him. But let's go ahead and get started with you, Infinite Umbra. Appreciate you, bro, for hanging out with us first time here at the Shop Podcast, bro. Glad you could make it today.
Yo, absolutely. I'm happy to be here with you guys. I mean, I've talked often with Pong and of course Fuzzy. Me and Fuzzy are chats. We talk all the time. So yeah, and my first time actually getting a chance to speak with you, PTK. I'm just gonna call you Blam. Is that all right?
It's all good, brother. Whatever works for you, man.
I'm like, I don't know if I can keep going PTK Blam every time.
Nah, yeah. You good, man. You good. You good.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me.
Oh, man, always. And once again, all that information is in the description below. Thank you for spending a little time with us. You guys know what we do, chat. We show proper love and support here for guests coming on the show, spend a little time with us here on Saturday evening, man. Shout out to Mav. I see you, boy. What's going on? What's up, Blue? I know Ashtray was here earlier. What's up, Jedi Knight? Everybody hanging out, man. It's about to be a lit show, man. Let's go ahead and throw this over to my guy, Pong Soul, Pong Harvey. How you been this week, brother?
We are getting into the holiday season, PTK, which means things are getting busy all over the place. So yeah, it's been a weird week. I had a nice paid Friday off from work because they do that for us during the holiday. But normally we have it right before Christmas. Obviously usually like the Friday or the Monday after. So they did it a little differently this year. So went out to had Christmas dinner and stuff with work. So didn't have a Thursday show. So that was a little weird. So just getting in the swing of things this weekend. Had a nice 4-hour show with my brother this morning. Mr. Steel Rain and I kicked it off on a Saturday. And now I'm here with you all. And obviously fantastic to have Umbra joining us finally tonight. Always love discussing games with him. Gaming wise, man, it's been Midnight Suns Addiction is live and real. So you know what I'm going to do is keep playing it, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just having a great time with that game. I did hop into some high on life. I played it the first night without the patch. It was awful, and I normally not sensitive about that stuff, but man, was it awful. I actually said, nope, not playing this until the patch hits. Well, they patched it. I went back into it for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, having a really good time. Can't wait to hop into that. But again, Midnight Suns is my addiction, and that was a problem for me. So, I continue to play that, but enjoyed some High on Life. And what else did I get into? I got into something. What else did I get into? What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something, PTK. Did anything else hit this week? That I'm totally forgetting?
What do you call them? Witcher, the update.
Oh yeah, The Witcher 3. Yeah. I did hop back into The Witcher 3 as well. I should be. I should be knee deep in that. But again, this Midnight Suns thing's got a hold of me. But Witcher 3, I did hop into for a few hours. And I am so dang impressed with what they've done. I mean, again, shout out to CDPR. Free update for next gen. Something they didn't have to do. They've gone back and done it. And let me tell you, I always got, again, third time's a charm for me on this one. So I always got taken out of the game by the combat, but they now added a quick sign feature. So you can cast basically your magic. For anybody who doesn't know, the signs are basically your magic. And before you had to go into a separate menu and it kind of slowed down time while you were figuring out which sign, which magic you want to use. Well, now it's on your triggers. So it makes it all seamless. There's no slowing time down or anything like that at all, which has made a huge difference. So the few hours that I did put back into it, I'm like, okay, the combat is already feeling different. So that is a big upgrade for me. So I'm extremely happy with that. And I can't wait to get more into that again. Once I get through Midnight Suns, I mean, I still got Persona 5 sitting there. Listen, there's a lot. And then you know what I did? I did forget one more. And then I went to the sale because Microsoft has got their big end of the year sale going on right now, like 900 titles in there. And I'm like, nope, I can't buy anything because I'm like 2023 is ridiculous, right? And I'm like, I gotta save my budget. I'm not gonna buy anything. But of course, you got to skim through and just see if there's anything ridiculous. Well, for me, this is ridiculous because I never actually bought the game. I played it when it was in Game Pass for a bit, but Mortal Kombat 11, the Ultimate Edition, is on sale right now for $9. And I was like, you know what? For $9, get the complete Mortal Kombat 11 experience. I'm going to pick it up. So I grabbed that yesterday in between a bunch of other stuff I had going on. I was playing the through the story mode because I had almost finished the entire first part of the story, but now I have Aftermath too. So I actually went and completed the first part and then went back and finished Aftermath yesterday. So having a good time with Mortal Kombat 11 as a button masher is just somebody who fools around with Mortal Kombat and all the fighters. So that's what else I did. But been a great week. We got a lot to get down to talking. So let's do it.
Let's get into it, man. Shout out to you, man. Pong Harvey. You guys know, man. Just go follow Pong on Twitter. Where you guys know where to find Pong. Shout out to everybody watching live. What's up, UK lad? What's up, brother? How you doing today, man? Hanging out with us. Everybody watching. What's up, Steel Rain? I see you sliding through. The family friend here.
We were just playing some Diablo 2, by the way, too.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
So him and I were
we're
getting
gonna
down.
get into that today. We're gonna talk a little Diablo today. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. So let's throw this over to you, Fuzz, before we get into the topics, man. How you been this week, brother?
Not too bad. Still Xbox console issue, but I gotta keep it to like a 1 or 2 hour like gameplay time frame, which is unusual for me these days. But I got to get that bug figured out. But outside of that, having fun with High on Life, which is one of the games that doesn't seem to shut down the console. Same thing with Horizon 5. Same thing with Division 2 and a lot of other games. Haven't really dove as much back into The Witcher 3. I'm trying to see if I can recover my save from before I bought the Game of the Year edition on digital a few years back. I had a disc version where I made it, I would say about 16 to 20 hours in. So I'm trying to see if I can recover that through GOG, because apparently I guess they now have it where if you go register an account there, it should be able to pull all those saves. So, fingers crossed I can make that work. But other than that, just, having fun looking at social media with people still upset about the ABK deal and giving their hot takes on that and hot takes on High on Life, trying to cancel it before I guess it gets any more momentum. But it just seems like it's easy to kind of tell people are posting like a negative approach or a negative spin on it when this is actually a pretty damn good game. A pleasant surprise that, I don't think I've had as much fun on a non-first party game that was like random like this since like Sunset Overdrive. So we'll see. But man, lot to talk about. Got a great guest tonight, so let's get into it.
And let's get into a chat. Once again, hit the like button if you're enjoying the podcast, man. Subscribe if you're brand new here as well. And once again, make sure you guys show some support to the guest here, Mr. Infinite Umber, hanging out with us, man. All of his information is down in the description below. Please go do that. But we're going to dive right in. We got a lot to talk about. So I was gonna call an audible here, but we're gonna actually get into the poll of the week. So I feel like we'll be able to get to all of our topics. So we'll get the poll of the weekend this week. So shout out to everybody who participates in the poll of the week in my Twitter feed every single Monday. Once again, go follow me there on Twitter if you want to be a part of that. Over almost 500 people voted this week. So shout out to everybody who took part in that. So poll of the week this week, and I actually believe I've asked something similar before, but I like to double back sometimes because as things happen, people's opinions change. So I asked the Twitter world or the Twitter community, what game will define 2023? And I gave a couple different options, and it was actually a landslide. I didn't think it would be a landslide, but it actually was a landslide. So we had Starfield, Spider-Man 2, Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and then I gave an other option just for people out there that may have thrown something else in there. But it was a runaway. Starfield won 75%. We don't even need to talk about who came in second or third place. Doesn't really matter. But we'll start with our guest here. We'll give you the first honor, man. So would your option be on in that poll? If not, would you be the other option? But did you agree with the choice?
Yeah, Starfield is absolutely my choice for 2023. I mean, it's got stiff competition too, to be fair. And I think it's even crazier because at E3, we're likely going to hear about some games that's going to come in the second half of that year. So it's hard to say that as a certainty, but absolutely, that's what my head and heart is at right now. I think that, Starfield is going to be one of those generational, like, great games. And it's the same as what, Skyrim before it and Oblivion before that, in my opinion, or Fallout 4 or 3 or New Vegas. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think absolutely it's going to be that type of game. Now, again, you do have some stiff competition because we got Zelda, like you pointed out. You have
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2. I don't think Spider-Man 2 is going to measure up to those two in that regard, at least not to that same level. I think it's going to be a great game. I just don't think it's going to be.
Is that
how dare you,
it's a
Umbra?
2?
No, wait. How dare you? Because Keely's already got the awards made for next year. Okay, listen.
The little spider webs on it and all.
Said that. Yes,
Yeah.
I can't believe you said that.
Yeah, like I think it's going to be great. I think Insomniac is one of the top best developers in the game, no question. So I have nothing but trust in them. I'm wondering how they're going to approach it, doing the Sinister Six and everything like that. I just don't think that, like, content wise, is what it's going to last as long as those two games are going to offer when it comes to things. And like Starfield, I plan on no lifing that, as I've said many times, and that's going to take thousands of hours really to get through that whole thing. And of course, DLC, I'm sure they're going to bring into it, and just modifications that the gamers come up with. I'm waiting to get that Millennium Falcon going. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I think that poll was correct, personally.
Okay. All right. Once again, chat. Before we get to the other opinions here, chat. Let us know which option did you choose. Did the poll, was a poll right? Did you guys agree with the poll? Did you guys have another option? I do 100% agree with you. So we talked about this a little bit, and you're right. It's extremely stiff competition. One, Zelda is always a big seller. It always it gets Nintendo fans going. It's my favorite. Well, Ocarina of Time is my favorite video game of all time ever. So I got a bit of a soft spot for it as well. But my bias aside, I do think Starfield is probably going to be the next generation. If I had to choose out of the three, which one was going to be, I think Starfield does have the best chance because it is the most ambitious. I do think the Spider-Man stuff, although it will be a phenomenal game. So please, chat, don't get it messed up. Don't get it wrong when I say this. I do think it is limited because it is a part 2. I think that does limit Starfield. I think that does limit Spider-Man just a little bit. As far as what they're going to be able to do, Starfield is such an ambitious idea that, like, it's kind of one of them shoot for the moon, land on a cloud type situation. So that's kind of what I hope for at like bare minimum, that they're shooting for the moon and we end up just landing on the cloud. So I do think because of that, it does have the highest chance of being a generational game. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Pong. Get your opinion. I don't even know if we need to mention a poll. I think that's completely unnecessary in this particular instance, Pong. But just humorous, Pong. Just act like there was any other actual option.
Oh my God! Anytime. I'm glad you finally learned, PTK. There's just not if you're gonna put Starfield in any poll outside of a negative poll, I'm gonna be picking it. Yeah, it's obvious it's Starfield. Again, not to slight any of the other games coming out next year, because as Umbra said, it's going to be ridiculous competition next year for top game. A lot of it is going to be perspective. A lot of it is just going to be what you like in your games, because there's something for everybody next year for sure. But Starfield for me has to be it. The difference being is this is a brand new IP on top of coming from my favorite studio in Bethesda and Todd Howard's A-Team. So that all being said, I think this has the greatest chance to leave the biggest impact in this, this year and potentially this generation. depending on how how that game turns out. But if they move the bar up another couple notches over the top of what they did when they launched Skyrim, then you are talking about that generational type game that's going to be talked about for the next 10, 20 years and beyond, still played the next 10, 20 years and beyond. As Umbra said, mods are going to, as they always do with Bethesda titles, continue to support this game even when Bethesda's finally done with it, and it's going to keep it alive forever, potentially. And I think Starfield is that game. Again, there's just so much at stake with this one, and Todd, being that this is his baby that he's thought about doing for decades now, I really think that he's going to nail it. He's going to stick the landing on this one. I think this is going to wind up being the most polished Bethesda title we have ever gotten. Not that that's saying a whole lot. I mean, I'm not saying there's not going to be bugs, because in a game this size, there's always going to be bugs. But as far as out the gate, I think this is probably going to be one of the best experiences we've ever had from that studio, from that side of things. But overall, I think this game really does have the chance to redefine open world sandbox RPGs once again, and really make it tough for anybody to come along and do something different that stands out in the way that the Bethesda titles do. So Starfield is it. Easy peasy.
Not even close. See, I don't even. We could have skipped you, Pong. We already knew where that was.
Yeah.
But no,
I could just said Starfield. Period. Just, left.
And I'm gonna double back here with you, Umbra, and I want you to kind of elaborate on this point, bro, if you don't mind. You too, Pong. I don't want to leave you out as well, Pong.
Yeah, no worries.
Since you just went as well.
I got
So
you.
what? So I mentioned earlier, just regarding the type of game that Starfield is, would you think that's like the biggest discerning quality between that and the other two options as far as like the potential? Because I did say it has the most potential, but it also is the riskiest. So I don't know if you want to, in my opinion, it's the riskiest as far as like, like it could be just massive, super giant generational game, or it could be something that we're talking about like, man, they dropped the ball here. Now I doubt that happens.
Yeah.
I'm not putting that energy out there, but I'm definitely not. I don't want to get one. I have a guy here on this panel that'll put me in a headlock, so I don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah. No, but you're right though, and I absolutely get what you mean, and it's a lot riding on Starfield. A lot of people I don't think people really see it that way, but you're right. I mean, for one, I think it's going to absolutely live up to what it's going to live up to.
I agree. I will as well. I do too.
Yeah, I mean, Todd Howard and them, every time they talk about it, you hear them talk about how important this is. They understand the pressure that's on them. They understand that fans are looking at them to show the worth of Game Pass and to show the worth of the weight for Bethesda to, for their games. And for this title in particular, 25 years in the making, they can't go out there and have a dud, right? So
yeah,
absolutely. I think that matters not only to them, and because it matters so much to them, that's why I think they'll excel and give us that generational, great game like they did before multiple times. And yeah, what happens if it fails, right? What happens to the value of Game Pass? What happens to the value of Xbox Studios and such like that?
I don't think it will. But I do. There is. I mean, like I guess if we're looking at both sides of the coin, right, Umber? Like if we want to be fair, look at both sides of the fence here. That is a possibility. But I just think that if you look at the track record, obviously that's the A team. That's Todd's inner circle. That's him having a hand. He's hands on with everything of Bethesda, but that's his baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has the best of the best working on this game. On top of, and he's reiterated this multiple times every time they talk about the game, the backing of Microsoft at this point. And we've speculated that may be why the game was delayed. The polish. Maybe the polish put some things. A lot of people have been talking about 60 frames. Maybe that was something that they weren't looking at and didn't have the time for. Maybe they do now. Maybe that extra 8, 9, 10 months.
If they manage to get 60 frames per second out of this game, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll pull that off, but man, would that be spectacular for that to happen?
Yeah.
I think they're aiming for 30, and Todd Howard is he loves 30 frames per second, man. What is it? Cinematic. You know what I mean? What's up?
They're gonna have 60 frames. It's going to be 2023. They're going to fill. The rest of the Xbox team knows how important 60 frames is to the community now, and to gamers in general who do care about that stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that they went back and got obviously the mods had done it first, but the re-release, the anniversary edition of Skyrim, they got boosted to 60 without the mods. So they're going to make that a priority, especially with all the tech that's in the Series X. I know that's not what Todd cares about, and I get that interview. Every interview he does, he mentions that 30 frames is his favorite, right? We get that's Todd's way of playing games. However, I think they do understand that 60 frames is important. And with the tech being where it's at, and him talking about how the Xbox engineers have been helping them, I think that they're going to get every bit out of it. Again, even if they have to come in at like 1080, 60, I think they pull it off. Obviously, I want a 1440 or an upscale 60, but at the same time, I think they do get that done in this one. And I think that extra year, I think that's going to be one of the major focuses to make sure that it is optimized to be able to get that done.
I tell you. You have
faith,
more faith than me, brother.
Yeah, I know.
I laugh at Shane in the comment. He said, "Yeah, maybe at 720, 60."
Yeah, no. Listen. 60 is not impossible on the Creation Engine, especially the Creation 2. We don't know all that's been done to the Creation Engine 2, but obviously, I'm sure that there was a lot of work done in there to optimize some of the stuff. And again, I might have blind faith right now. As I said, I'm not going to sit here and say I won't play it if it's not 60. Of course, I'm going to be playing it, enjoying the hell out of it, because I don't mind 30 frames. I'm not one of those people yet that has a problem outside of like stuttering like High on Life was doing. That was causing me problems. But otherwise, I still go back and play 360 games. So I have zero issue.
Yeah.
But I will be on this show telling Bethesda that they're wrong and telling Todd that should have been done. That should have been one of the main priorities with creating this game, because it will make a big difference on how this is received if it does have a 60 frames mode. These days, whether fairly or unfairly, that 60 frames is going to be something people look for. So I think it needs to be done. I really do.
We don't need that. Me and Fuzz don't need faith. Umber. Pong has enough for all of us.
That's right.
I don't even bother. I don't need it. Like I discarded that a long time ago. Pong has us covered. I promise you. So no, but Pong, I do want to pose another question before we get to Fuzz here. And I don't want to move on too fast. Shout out to Sonny as well in chat. Brand new face here. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Let me get to this $5 super chat. Shout out to Jay Ramber for the $5 super chat as well. He said Xbox can't have a year like 2022 ever again. Acquisitions or no acquisitions. Understandable, Agreed. Sir, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but we'll talk about that here shortly. But I do want to pose a quick question to you, Pong, before we throw this over to Fuzz and then move on to a new topic here.
Yeah.
What's Starfield's impact on Elder Scrolls?
On Elder Scrolls, it's another step forward. They're going to use it as far as the AI tech goes that Todd talked about in his interview with Friedman, and they're going to use that as a testing bed for a lot of things that they're going to even expand more upon in Elder Scrolls. Todd kind of hinted at that in some ways. So I think this is going to be a test bed for a lot of what they're going to do in Elder Scrolls. I think Elder Scrolls will obviously not be the size of Starfield in terms of scope, because it's still going to be, obviously an Elder Scrolls game. So it's still going to be relegated to one portion, of land. But I do think that they're going to use that to affect the quests that you get and how those quests actually play out within the Elder Scrolls. I think they're going to improve upon that. I think the NPC AI is going to go up dramatically from what we saw back in Skyrim days and even Fallout 76 time. I think that whatever they learn in Starfield is definitely going to take Elder Scrolls to the next level. I think the Creation Engine 2 is going to fix a lot of the smaller issues that were within the Elder Scrolls games originally. So I think that obviously having the trifecta of those games has been Todd's goal from the beginning. So if he sticks this landing with Starfield and Starfield now enters that rotation, I think that gives the team a lot of confidence moving forward. Not that they need any more, because when you hear them talk, they are extremely confident in what they do. They know what they're doing. But I think it will show them, because it's been so long since they've created a brand spanking new IP, that they've got the magic. Right, that they have it after all these decades. The magic is still there. And I think that's going to impact Elder Scrolls in a positive way. I think that we're going to see a different look to Elder Scrolls and a different feel overall. Not the sandbox part, not the randomness, not the exploration, none of the stuff that makes Elder Scrolls and Bethesda games, what they are. But I think that Elder Scrolls is going to take another leap forward in what we see. And I think some of the mechanics are definitely going to be a part of that they learn from in Starfield.
Awesome. Awesome. I wanted to make sure I got that out there too, because I was curious about that. What kind of impact is this going to have going forward? And obviously that remains to be seen. But let's get this over to you, Fuzz. Make sure we get you in here, bro. And this is the poll. Did the poll, was the poll right? Did they get it right?
I mean, there's always
oh,
other
oh my
games out there, like Dead Island 2. I mean,
here comes the undercover pony. Let's go. Just say Spider-Man 2 after you just said your favorite game of 22 was Gran Turismo last night, Fuzz. Let's go.
Let Fuzzy cook. Let Fuzzy
Benedict Arnold. Benedict.
No, I was going to
Arnold.
jokingly say like Dead Island 2 because it's been in like development hell for almost 10 years now. So that one should be a defining factor of how you escape development hell. But no, seriously, I would say Starfield is going to be the one that defines 2023. And as much as I'm a Forza fan, I think that will define or set a new bar for racing games. But as far as overall, just from an RPG standpoint, from a sci-fi standpoint, from an open world standpoint, or open universe, I guess would be the new term we could use. I think this game is going to put a stamp on, exploration, interaction, and a big step up in visuals compared to some of the previous titles that have come from Bethesda as far as for stuff using the creation engine. So I think it's going to be the full boat. The only drawback I still foresee is that it will launch with 30 and that 60 will come, but I don't think it's at launch. And I think they'll get a little bit of smoke for that and whatnot. But I think overall, what the meat on the bones will be more than enough for people to enjoy and kind of get lost in that universe without having to worry about the frames and whatnot. They'll be so busy either building their ship or stealing other ships or working on space battles and things like that. That I don't really think that the frame rate will be as much of a talking point. I mean, you'll have some loud vocal people at the beginning of it, but I think overall, just the substance of the game itself will speak volume. So I think the poll, the people got it right. It's definitely going to be the game of 2023. Spider-Man 2, I think, will sell very well, and it will be rated well, in like the mid to upper 80s, let's say. But I don't think it will do anything tremendously different than the previous one or even Miles Morales area. I think it will be quality of life improvements, more expansive, deeper story. But I don't think that touches thousands of planets, whether they be procedurally generated or not. I think that's going to be a step in the direction where we'll see some of the handcrafted stuff. We'll see the spontaneous actions or involvements where you land somewhere and there may have been a crew that you helped out before, and now they have a whole base there that you can interact with and things like that. I think that's going to be the bigger defining factor as far as games moving forward in this generation or for 2023 in general. And that's all I got.
And I think, and it's crazy because I think Starfield is so ambitious. Like, I don't really think people, like, even us sitting here talking about, I don't think some people even understand how, like, really what Todd and his team is trying to do, like what they're trying to accomplish, man. Like, they are literally like trying to, like, it's unprecedented what they're trying to do, what they're attempting to do. So that's why I said I do think it has the highest probability to be like another generational game, just because of everything that they're trying to pull off. But once again, that was a great warm-up topic. Once again, poll of the week, chat. If you guys are not partaking in that, follow me on Twitter every single Monday. The poll of the week goes up. We talk about it here at the Shop Podcast on Saturday, man. And we are moving to the meat of the show, and that's the main topics, man. So I do got one right off the bat before I turn the show over to Pong and Fuzz here, because I want to get this one in. Because I want to talk a little bit about this. I read about it, but I've been chomping at the bits to kind of get on a podcast and talk about it. So I want to talk about this Amazon Tomb Raider thing, this deal that's going on. So it was announced earlier this week that Amazon seems to be taking a publishing strategy, as far as the into this gaming space, which I think is a bold and it's a better strategy than trying to be like a platform. Just go the publishing route. They do that extremely well. They got a whole lot of money they can throw at a lot of studios. They're great with marketing. You already have that in the bag. I mean, you're Amazon, for crying out loud. So I think this is a really, really cool thing. Tomb Raider is a big game, great franchise. Glad to see it come back, on top of all of that. But I'm gonna throw this over to you, Umbra. Kind of want to get your opinion. What does this mean for Amazon? What does this mean? Are you excited for Tomb Raider? Like, what do you want out of this game? Just kind of get your overall opinion on when you heard about this.
Well, I heard about it the other day. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, just for the simple fact that I do love the Tomb Raider franchise. Are they talking about this is going to be a reboot itself, or are they just saying it's going to be
I don't think
continuation?
I don't have they confirmed Pong
Yeah,
Fuzz? They have?
I think it's another reboot, if you want to
Ah.
call it that. Yeah.
Now, what if
I
they
think that-
reboot it and give her the square breast again? I don't know. That'd be funny. But no, no, yeah, I'm excited for it just because of the team involved. And well, actually, I don't know who they're going to have involved. Actually, who are they going to have develop it? I don't
It's
know.
Crystal Dynamics.
Crystal Dynamics.
So it's still going to
Yeah.
be them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It is.
So long as it's Crystal Dynamics, they have my full faith. I mean, they've done an excellent job with that reboot. I think I still hold true that I believe the reboot of Tomb Raider was better than the Uncharted, most of them, outside of 2, and parts of 4, I suppose, and 3. But overall, I think those games are excellent, honestly. So I'm excited for it just because they are still attached, and so I know the pedigree behind it is going to give us something great. Now, I don't quite get Amazon's what they're trying to aim for here, seeing how they closed off, their studios before. So I'm not quite sure how they're trying to handle this, but I guess it's just a factor of them publishing it. But it could be a backdoor situation where they might try to acquire Embracer. Who knows? So maybe they got rid of what they had just to snatch up Embracer, because it did seem odd. Like, this is a multi-trillion-dollar company. You can't run a business like that. I don't believe that. So wouldn't it make more sense if they actually acquired somebody who had tons of studios already, like Embracer? Yeah,
I mean,
I can
that's
see
an
it.
idea, and I'm sure Fuzz will have a Fuzz is gonna hit us with the tea leaves on this one. This is something we've been talking about for a while, so Fuzz gonna connect the dots here. I'm sure of it, but I do that may be part of it. Well, and like I said, the good thing, the thing that was interesting for me about the Amazon portion of this is the kind of the publishing angle that they're taking rather than trying to take the Google angle. Now, the Amazon does have Luna, which I don't hear much about. Like I think me and Pong were talking about it in the DMs not too long ago about just like, I don't hear about it. I don't see it in my feed. Like, I just don't hear about it very often. So going the publishing route, like, we're just going to publish these multi-plats, is a great way to keep Amazon, because especially if you attach yourself to like quality games, if these games come out and they're really good games, that gives you, a little bit of cachet, right? In this space, the Google didn't have it, right? They tried the Stadia thing. They tried to just be a platform first without actually having any actual like exclusives or any games to hold up their platform or separate their platform. So I think this is actually smart if Amazon goes this route, in my opinion.
It makes a lot of sense. I think personally, I don't think they'll just, because what makes more logical sense? Oh, let's just do this for Tomb Raider itself, or let's make a bigger play. We start off slow, showing that we're going to actually put this out there, get a quality product out there, and then say, hey, we're acquiring Embracer. Now, my boy Aaron in the chat there, he says he doesn't think that Embracer is going to go out that easy without a fight. I don't think they're going to fight. I think Amazon is going to offer them a nice big package, and they're going to be like, thank you very much. Now, Aaron, by the way, he says that because I believe the CEO of Embracer is Swedish like himself, so I think he's just biased. I see you, Aaron. But yeah, I think that makes some type of sense. Now, it's tinfoil headery, don't get me wrong, but it just makes the most sense out of anything for me. But even if that's not the case, the fact that they have Crystal Dynamics on it still, and they're going to get a quality budget to actually do what they have to do, yeah, I have 100% faith in the product. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and throw this over to, we're going to throw this over to you, Fuzz, because obviously this is something you have Amazon has been like really, you've been keeping an eye on Amazon for years.
Yeah.
We got the receipts. We've been talking about, them making moves in this gaming space and how they're going to navigate. Are they going to look at Google and try and do the same thing? Are they going to, take a different strategy? They seem to be taking a slow burn kind of strategy. We're going to wait and see what the market looks like. Maybe they're taking this publishing angle. What do you think about this deal?
Well, I think before we even get into like the whole Amazon strategy type of deal, I think this is the best way to bring a Tomb Raider reboot to market. Like, sure, Embracer has publishing arms that they could have done it themselves, but them stepping their big toe into the AAA space. Um, I don't know if they want to necessarily have that much investment tied up into a game. Yes, it will probably do well, but I think this is kind of like, at least from their side of things, a good way to kind of test the waters out while being directly involved and having like a catbird seat in seeing what the expenditures look like, see what the marketing aspect looks like when you get into these bigger budgets, and so they don't necessarily fall into it with spending recklessly or putting money in like a wrong area at the wrong time type of thing. Not saying that they don't know how to run a business. They've been doing well with a lot of their single and double A type games that they've been doing before. But I think this is going to be more of a learning process. And I think the guy, what's his name, Lars, I think wants to have a better hold on expanding into that AAA space. Now, with the Amazon aspect of it, they're looking at Embracer probably as a good potential acquisition for down the road, should they decide to get a little bit more serious than what they're doing with Luna right now. Like the key things to look at is that Lord of the Rings IP that Embracer has. They have the movie rights, or I think the TV show and movie rights or something like that already, as far as Amazon's concerned. So, what better way to make use of that in all forms of media if you kind of work hand in hand? Hey, you need money to work on this project for Tomb Raider? Well, we kind of like the fact that you have this IP for gaming, and we already have this and this plan for TV and movies. What better way to partner up for things for down the line? And I think this is kind of like a test bed for them to some extent. Now, on the flip side of things, I still think the long game is, and I know people think I'm crazy for it, I still think Amazon acquires PlayStation or acquires all of Sony. I think it only works if they acquire all of Sony down the road. And yes, I know that there's been rumors of the pictures being up for sale again, but then denied and so forth. But I think maybe not within the next year or so, but 2 to 3 years out, or what I would say was no later than 2026. But I think we start to see the pattern by 2024 that maybe Amazon would be that sugar daddy for Sony to some extent, as far as when things start to consolidate a bit more. But back to Tomb Raider, I think this is a good move as far as from Amazon's standpoint, from Embracer's standpoint. Kind of wish that maybe Microsoft would have stepped up instead, so it could be another timed exclusive or whatever. But I know Phil's whole lookout or outlook on that is definitely been burned since the last time. But I think this will pan out great for all parties involved. It's just a matter of now. A lot of people would love to see Microsoft eventually acquire some things from Embracer, but I don't know if that's going to be in the cards now, especially if Amazon's chopping at the bit and kind of, grooming Embracer now at this point or so to kind of work on future projects and things like that down the road.
Okay, all right. So I don't know how much that lines up with your idea, Umber, when you were talking about a little earlier when I introduced the topic. But ultimately, it's an interesting partnership, and it's something that we definitely got to keep an eye on, Umber, because this is Amazon, and I don't know how much you've paid attention to Amazon, Umber, but we've here on the show we always make it a point to highlight them when they do certain things in the market, and this is one of those times where I do think they've taken a more deliberate stance than say a Google, and they've just taken a step back and said we're just going to watch and try and figure this out. It's going to take a little time, but we got plenty of money. We're not in a rush to jump into this video game thing and fall on our face. So I do think that it's part of it. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I think you're on. I think that's exactly it right there. Now they have enough money to fail and
Oh, they do.
bounce right
Yeah.
back, right? Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like Microsoft in this regard. But I think just going off what they did recently, closing down the studios the way they did and such, to me, it seems to paint a picture that they will go after somebody who's kind of set up already. Now, again, we have my man Aaron in the chat. He says, so the thing about Embracers, the only publishers that have they have under them are not even close to the level that the bigger publishers is their biggest one being Coffee Stain. I have the slightest idea what the hell that is.
Yeah,
But
me either.
oh, it must be a Swedish thing, Aaron. You just let's play Coffee Stain, okay? No,
Wait, is he saying the biggest publisher they got is that for Embracer Group?
I guess
I thought
THQ
THQ.
Nordic,
Yeah.
Focus. Yeah, no,
Is that what it is?
got big. Yeah, THQ Nordic is big, gigantic, worldwide. So
yeah. So he's saying that. Now, my thing would be this: maybe they're not going to grab Embracer completely, but there was a rumor, or at least tinfoil headery, where remember we thought maybe Embracer bought all those studios from Square Enix so that Microsoft could get them later on. Well, what if Amazon is going to do that instead? Right? What if Amazon decides, yeah, how about we go ahead and take that off your hands? And I'll say, by the way, that's a slightly why I'm annoyed with the ABK situation still, because as good as that is for Microsoft to get, and for us as gamers, right? It's held up a lot of other things I would have preferred, just as being selfish, that I would have preferred them go after instead. This being one of those studios, because I'm still tripping over the 300 million that they acquired them for. That still blows
it's
my
crazy.
mind.
It's insane. Yeah.
So maybe that could be the case that they're just going to sell them off to Amazon. Who knows?
I mean, we got to look at all the aspects here, but I'm sure Pong, go ahead and drop your perspective on this, bro. We've talked about this. Obviously Amazon has been making moves. We bring it up from time to time here at the Shop Podcast, but we've kind of kept an eye on them, right? Kind of that RTS view. I'm stealing Steel Rain's call line there, but we've kind of taken a step back and kind of kept an eye on them, and they haven't really done much. They've been real deliberate about everything that they've done. It's been pretty slow, but it's not a bad thing. I don't want to say it because it seems like they've been a bit more calculated. Google's just throwing shit around, and they didn't really have any idea how any of it worked. Amazon seems to be a bit better at like looking at where everything is going, and maybe this is their way in.
Yeah, I'm going to take the other tinfoil hat position here as well. When it comes to this, sure, there are some easy answers that most likely could be correct. They could have cut a deal with Amazon to do the publishing rights for Tomb Raider to get a better. And again, I'll give all credit where credit's due. This was pointed out to multiple people when I made my Twitter post about how strange this was, that they would be going to Amazon for this. And some people, brought some really good common sense arguments. Maybe they cut a deal with Amazon to get better, get a better percentage when it comes to TV and movie rights for any Tomb Raider stuff going forward, which would make a lot of sense, obviously. So there's some logical explanations as well, but I think the tinfoil hat stuff in this industry cannot be overstated, because we wind up in situations like the ABK deal that we never thought we would see, right? So I think there is some curiosity here as to why an IP like Tomb Raider, of all things, an IP like Tomb Raider, when you have Embracer Group that does have worldwide publishers, again, if it was a fact that they didn't have any worldwide publishers, then I totally understand, right? We just saw Namco Bandai partner with Amazon to bring Blue Protocol, their new free-to-play game, to the West, right? And Namco Bandai is Bandai Namco, I should say. I'm doing the map thing tonight. Yeah, I'm going. They're huge. Yeah. They don't have necessarily the presence in the West, so I can understand. And it's a brand new IP, and it's a free-to-play game, so I can see why they might hand it off to Amazon. But a Tomb Raider IP that Lars Wingefors himself, made a big deal about celebrating when they acquired it along with Crystal Dynamics. Why would you not keep that in-house? Like, to me, that's a head scratcher. Why go ahead and give up a percentage of money to Amazon to get this done? Now, obviously, again, another point was made. Well, maybe Amazon is giving some resources to this game. Maybe they are supplying some cash or something else to, get this game going. But again, if you're Embracer Group
you get one hell of a steal on Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. You get some big IP that has been underutilized in Tomb Raider, and you celebrate it. Why are you going to the first time out? Give that up. Give up a portion of that to somebody else on the outside. To me, that doesn't make sense unless you already have in mind that you're not keeping this IP and you're not keeping this team for an extended period of time, maybe even before Tomb Raider launches. If this is the flip situation that we all talked about, shout out to Slow-Mo, who was the first one to bring this up. He did it on Iron Lord's podcast a while back when this deal went through, that if Embracer Group is in fact a holding tank for Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, and they already have a buyer in a Microsoft Xbox, that's just kind of got to put them on hold until obviously the ABK deal settles out, then this makes total sense. Because again, even from the resource standpoint, Embracer Group has invested money into a lot riskier IP already than a Tomb Raider game, which we know is going to sell well.
I wouldn't say Tomb Raider is risky.
You're right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. A lot riskier, right? They've invested their own money into a lot riskier propositions. The new Saints Row was a lot riskier than what Crystal Dynamics is going to do with Tomb Raider. So if this is one of your big new IPs that you just got on a steal, why would you not be investing into that heavily? Why would that not be one of your front-running AAA games? Because again, Embracer Group has made up a lot of AA, and now they have some AAA mixed in with Gearbox, etc. Why would you not invest heavily and make this your kind of pillar AAA franchise? Because Tomb Raider's there. Tomb Raider's already got the name. Tomb Raider's got everything that you want to invest in. So why wouldn't you do that? Well, again, if you're not planning on having it for very long, you wouldn't. You're not gonna spruce up a house that doesn't need a whole lot of cleaning if you already know you got a buyer on the hook for an extra $200,000 over what you paid for it, right? You're not gonna do it. What's the point? There's no point investing your own money into that. So I think that this could be a case where this actually does turn out to be kind of the conspiracy theory could come true. Now, again, I'm not saying it is. This is speculation town, folks. I'm one of the mayors, so I can go here anytime I want to. I got the keys, okay? But I'm just saying that there are some dots to be connected here that they said, hey, you know what? It's fantastic. Happy to get you on a steal, but this Tomb Raider thing, we're not going to put a lot of money into it, so we need you guys to go find another publisher to help you out with this until we get things settled out. And that's what they did. They went out and they went to Amazon. And Embracer runs their teams a lot like Microsoft does. They are still in control of themselves, so they have the freedom to go make deals like this. But Embracer still has the final say. Let's not get cute here. They are the parent company, so if they don't want to do one of their companies to do a deal with another one, they can say no for sure. They're the owners. So I just can't imagine giving up the Tomb Raider when you got a THQ Nordic sitting there to be able to publish this worldwide easily, to give it up to Amazon. So I'm going to go tinfoil hat here. I'm going to say this leans and gives more credence to the fact that this could be a flip situation, that this was a deal that they could not pass up, and they already know they have a buyer on the hook as soon as some things get settled out. And I think that's where this is going. I think that we wind up seeing Crystal Dynamics eventually, and maybe even Eidos Montreal underneath the Microsoft Xbox umbrella when this is all said and done.
And I want to, good point, Pong. Great point. I want to make sure I get this out there. Shane, shout out to Shane G, said Tomb Raider made no money. Think you guys are living in nostalgia. Y Squared sold the IP so cheap. Embracer was not flipping that bill. But Shane.
Listen, Shane. Listen. Square Enix treated Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal like the redheaded stepchildren. They never gave them backing that they needed. They never marketed properly. Go back, look at the sales of Tomb Raider. It still sold very, very well. Okay. And that was without any backing from Square Enix. Square Enix did the bare minimum with those teams. They were using them to grind out pennies right? They expected more. That's why they handed and forced Crystal Dynamics to work on an Avengers game in a genre that they had no business working in, right? This was Square Enix is the one who ran Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal with the Eastern business model, which does not work. Go look at the rest of Square Enix outside of Final Fantasy 14. If they did not have Final Fantasy 14, the rest of their teams would be toast right now. So again, Square Enix has a problem, a management problem, and that filtered down to two Western studios that they thought they could just do whatever they wanted to with, and they were just going to, hopefully get into the Western market with them. And they didn't want to put the effort in that it takes, and they don't know how to market to the West. Square does have a problem. Final Fantasy markets itself. But again, Square Enix's problem starts at the top, and that led to issues with Crystal Dynamics and with Eidos Montreal. That's the problem.
Well, and another thing too, there are certain things you cannot buy, and nostalgia is one of them. Brand recognition is the other one. You got to build these things up over time. Tomb Raider has that in spades. When you see Tomb Raider flash across the screen, a lot of people know what that is. And that's something that's built into that IP. So it does give you, like you said, it's obviously it's not what it once was, and that's not what we're saying. But the IP that you're getting is valuable. Now, and once you get, and I'm glad you brought up a lot of those points too, Pong, because some people look at the IP and say, well, it's lost its luster. All those singular points you pointed out, that's the reason it's lost its luster. It's not because the IP itself fell apart. It's not like it's a Sonic situation where it needs to rebuild itself. Tomb Raider was never in that bad a shape. But once again, the parent company not being able to, realize the visions of this actual IP because they just don't, the ideology, Square Enix doesn't really make those kinds of games. That's not really what they do. They don't really support those types of games. So I agree with you 100%, Pong. I don't know if you want to elaborate on any of that, but I'm right in line with you.
I just, again, Square's issues are solely at the top, and they have been for a very, very long time. And you can see it throughout their decision making. And it should be no surprise that they blamed Crystal Dynamics. They blamed Eidos Montreal for their issues when they themselves weren't doing the work necessary. Because again, I don't think they understand a lot of the marketing in the West. That's why I hope Square does get picked up by Sony so that they have an umbrella company that can teach them how to do it. But Square has been in this issue for decades now. This is not brand new to Square. And again, they tried something with Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, but they thought they would be able to do it their old ways, and it never worked out. And that's why the profit margins were what they were for Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. And I firmly believe that 100%. So I think that was not a Tomb Raider issue or a Crystal Dynamics issue. I think that was a Square Enix issue. And I think we're going to see that come this new Tomb Raider when it does launch.
Awesome. So another great topic in the bag. Shout out to everybody in chat. Shout out to all the new faces, man. I hope you're enjoying yourself so far. Get your drink, kick back, kick your shoes off. Come hang out here with the Shop Podcast. We do this every single week. So I do hope you'll come back and join us as well every week that we do this. But I'm going to throw this, hand the keys over to my two compadres here while they take over the remaining portion of the show. So Pong, what do you got for us, man? What's on the list, brother? What's on the docket?
Oh boy, you always got to come to me first, don't you? Let's see here. Which way do we want to go tonight? I had something in mind until I got wrapped up in that last conversation here. Let me see if I can find it real quick because I got out of the area I was in. Hold on for just a second. We didn't have a whole lot this week. We did. Okay, yeah, I know where I want to go. This is gonna be an easy one. This has been a heavy topic conversation. Fuzzy. You are going to be so happy to hear this topic, brother. Brother, you are going to be so happy that we're going back to this space after last night. Let's go. I want to get Umbras and PTKs. I got a lot of fuzzy last night, so we are going to talk about the Game Awards and Microsoft's marketing or lack thereof and what they need to do going into 2023. And I'm bringing this up because I've seen a lot of nonsense in this community trying to dismiss the Game Awards, trying to protect Xbox and not give some criticism. And again, I'm in the camp that believes the decision was made by the attorneys because of the ABK deal. But even admitting that it was a missed opportunity, whatever the reasons were, to not be at the Game Awards with an actual, at least one game announcement or at least one update on one of their future games that has been announced. Even if you didn't want to go big, fine. But I've seen a lot of people in this community try to dismiss the Game Awards as just another Sony show. They've brought their personal feelings about Keighley into it, saying, oh, Microsoft finally made the decision not to give Keighley any more attention, not to give him any more, money, et cetera, et cetera. I've seen all sorts of nonsense come out of this. Game Awards came out with their numbers, which Keighley, rightfully so, was very proud of. 103 million viewers of the Game Awards. 103 million viewers for a video game award show. Increases year over year since he started this thing. And this is a big one. This right here was a missed opportunity, whatever the reason it was, for Xbox. Sure, they had the Game Pass sizzle reel. Great. Sure, they had about a half dozen Samsung Game Pass app advertisements in there. But you had a large portion of people who probably don't own or haven't been a part of the Xbox ecosystem, if ever, maybe the 360 era, but you had a chance to sell them on what you got going on. And outside of E3, this is the biggest place to be for video games where you get this many eyes all at one time on it. And for me, this, again, I said it, this was a missed opportunity. Now, there's rumors that they're going to have a show, an early show. Jez came out and tweeted last night that those rumors seem to be true, more so than not. So we probably are going to get an early show. But that's going to be an Xbox-focused show, and I'm happy about it. And again, for all the Xbox fans out there like us, we're going to be there. We're going to watch it. It's going to be like an XO, I hope, something to that degree. It's going to be great. But you're not going to have the eyes that you would have at the Game Awards. And this goes to a larger issue that we've talked about before. What does Microsoft do going forward? Their old style marketing is outdated in many ways. They have not done a good job of picking up some slack that has been there between some of the shows. And they've got more content than anybody else coming out there outside of Embracer Group with 200 and some games, something ridiculous like that. But they're going to be, with the ABK deal, if that goes through, they'll be one of the world's largest publishers. Okay. And they don't have the marketing right now, the consistency, along with the consistency of their games, which we all have talked about. So I want to get everybody's opinion here. And I'm going to break this up into a couple different ways. And again, Fuzzy, I'll save you for last because again, we had a big conversation and maybe you were on the losing team last night against me and Mav. So maybe you thought about it overnight and come up with some better things, but we'll see. We'll see. So I want to start obviously with our guest, Umbra. I know that you guys have talked about this on your other podcasts as well. The Game Awards came and went with a no-show from Microsoft outside of the things that I mentioned. But this has been in the past and direct from Phil's mouth, an important show to be at and to have a presence. You don't show off your console for the first time unless you know that this is an important place for video gaming, which they did with the Series X. You don't show off games like Hellblade 2, Perfect Dark, etc., without knowing that you've got the eyes of a lot of people that could get interested in what Xbox is doing by being there. So for you, Umbra, first of all, was it a disappointment? Was it a loss? How would you describe Xbox's showing at the Game Awards or lack thereof? And then I want you to kind of forecast out. We know that this week we also got word and kind of got shown that they've got a new kind of production studio, which looks to be on the marketing side of things. They've made some hires in that field to kind of beef up the marketing team going into 2023. With what we do know and expect, obviously anything can happen, but we do have some games that are supposed to come out in the first 6 months. We have a lot of third-party deals out there as well. What would you like to see happen from their marketing team coming into 2023 to start picking up some of the slack or some of the missing pieces that we kind of think that they have? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, we talked about that extensively about the disappointment of Microsoft showing up and literally not showing up at the VGAs. I had a whole space for it. Had 500 plus people come through.
Yes, you
Had
did, sir.
Paris.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, brother. We had Paris, everybody come through, gave their thoughts and stuff like that. Listen, I'm an Xbox guy. I've been with Xbox since 2001. So when I say what I say, it's not to be negative to Xbox or because I'm afraid somebody might call me a fan. I get called fanboys by ponies all day. I do not care about that nonsense. It's irrelevant to me. Now I'm a gamer all across the board. I play on everything, right? I got a PS5. I have an Xbox. I will get a Switch once they have the new model. But the problem is this. We sometimes get too enthralled into, or too entrenched, I suppose is the word, into defending, these companies and these corporations and Xbox or PlayStation or whatever it may be. And that's not our job. Our job is, to enjoy these games. And us as, being in the content creation game, it's beholden to us to speak the truth. And I'm going to be truthful regardless if I was in this or not, right? But some of us get a little defensive when you talk about this type of stuff. And they don't want to hear the truth when it comes to it. They refuse to. Microsoft failed here. You cannot go to the biggest gaming event of the year and show nothing except for 3 Game Pass ads and a deal with Samsung TVs. That's not going to do it. I was highly heated. I did a watch party rather with Fun Speculation and Gang, and at a point I dozed off because the show got boring in the second half. I'm not going to lie to you. But my mic was muted, so you all didn't hear me snoring. But yeah, Pong. But my thing is once we came to, and I'm like, okay, let's see what they got. The games they announced were great. Like, yeah, saw a lot of great games. And all that time, I'm wondering, okay, when is Microsoft? I'm rubbing my hands like Birdman. When is Microsoft? When is Microsoft? Got to the end. Jeff Keighley turns around, looking as goofy as he always does. All right, one more thing, and I'm like, here he goes. Such and such and such. Thank you all for coming out. And he walks off the stage. Now, Bong, you remember me that night. I know.
Oh, yeah.
Was I pissed off or not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you and Mav had a lot to say. Yeah.
I was upset.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you allow that? Because of how they handled it. And I don't know. I don't subscribe necessarily to their lawyers stopping them, but it does make some sense because otherwise I would just have to think they just dropped the ball altogether, and that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But I just don't understand how you allow that. I think even if the lawyers are telling me that, that's one thing I'm not going to listen to, because so the other argument was, well, they have to do that because the regulators, listen, the regulators know these games are in the works. This is not a surprise to them. They named those games, literally Redfall, they named it. They named Starfield. They know well about them. Showing them off is not going to hurt Microsoft in this case. And by the way, they still have other Xbox game studios. What about In Exile? What about Compulsion? What about those games they were making? You can't show that. You see what I mean? Some of this is not adding up. So, and those have nothing to do with acquisitions of those major acquisitions that involves ABK. So why couldn't you show that something? And it didn't have to be a long thing. Just a little snippets would have been good enough for me. Hell, I'll be honest with you. If they'd have gave us a launch date for Redfall or something, I would have been like, okay, all right, they showed something, a little different gameplay or something like that with it. Yep. I would have been content. But to show nothing, it made Microsoft look weak, and maybe that's what their aim was. Let's look weak, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But man, mission accomplished. Because it made it like, people are saying, it did make it look like the Pony Show. It really did. It looked like the Sony Show. And I keep saying Pony. I know some people are sensitive to that. Oh, you're saying Pony and Bot. And listen, I don't take it that serious. But my whole thing is, and I'm playful with it. People call me Pony when I started playing God of War and all that. But it made Microsoft look rather really inconsequential in the whole grand scheme of things. And that's what I disliked. Because Microsoft have made great strides since the Xbox One generation to turn that ship. And I think we all know it. Like you pointed out, Pong, bringing the Xbox Series X there, showing off Hellblade, Perfect Dark. You don't do that unless you're trying to make, you're swinging for the fences. And they were. So when you take a step back like this, it's very noticeable. So I can't get with anybody dismissing it. Like, they didn't need that. They didn't need to show up there with 103 million people that tuned in. Yeah, that's tough. But what I will say is this: it's not doom and gloom. I'm just disappointed that they did it that way. But it's not doom and gloom. And if this rumor is true, from reliable people like Jazz, by the way, and if that rumor is true, yeah. Somebody actually asked me that in the space. They said, "What if we get an event?" I think it was Louis, by the way, Crazy Louis. And congrats to him, by the way. He's getting married tonight, I believe.
Shout out to Louis.
Shout out Louis.
Yes,
But
it is.
yep. Married Louis now. Not so much crazy. But he pointed out, he said, well, Umbra, what if they're having a show that comes in January or February? I said, well, then I'll be happy.
Right.
I'll be a little content. I mean, I'll still be disappointed that they didn't show up at the biggest thing, which makes no sense that they would have a separate show. But if they have a separate show, yeah, I'll shut up. I'll be happy. I'm going to keep complaining. No, I got what I wanted. So, yeah, I'm hoping that there is something truthful to that theory, to that rumor. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe they did it because they knew like this was not going to look good. So that maybe they were like, yeah, okay, hey, we got something for you. Want to do a little quick XO or something like that, hosted by Paris or whomever. Here you go. Here's something to look forward to. Here's some more gameplay. Here's some announcement dates for the launch game dates of Redfall or whatever, so on and so forth. I'm all for that. But I'll say this: 2023. Pong, to your question,
Yes.
how did you frame it? I want to make sure
I framed what would you like to see them do going forward with their marketing coming into 2023, which we do expect is going to be, a good one, to say the least. Could wind up to be a great one. What would you like to see them do going forward? Would you like smaller shows? Would you just like more overall, Twitter, actual putting out Twitter posts when there are things like the Wolong, dev diary going out instead of just retweeting it? I mean, what would you like to see personally from that team?
Well, I do want to see Microsoft step up in the marketing part, right? And I think that's the biggest issue with all of us had with the show. It wasn't just that they didn't show up. The marketing just seems to be like, whatever. And we saw it all year long, right? And no matter if it was partnership games they partnered up with for marketing, whatever it may have been, you didn't really see a push for those games. They did it, I believe, even for Psychonauts. Psychonauts 2 didn't even get that push, Fuzzy, if I'm not mistaken. And they put that out. It was just like, here it is.
Yeah, it was like, oh, it's in Game Pass.
Right. And I think Microsoft is relying too much on the idea that it's in Game Pass. So there you go. You don't have to market it. And I think that's a mistake. At the very least, it should be some type of commercial or something highlighting these games. And that's where Sony excels at. So the space was literally titled, does Microsoft need to take lessons from Sony in marketing? And I think we can agree largely that Sony does a great job in that regard. But I'll say this to that question. You don't think, you disagree? I was about to say, I'll just say this to that question. What I think they need to do going forward is market their games better. Show us that these games matter. Show us that this is going to be, because it, like, if it's coming from the head and you're saying, hey, look at this, you can expect this in Game Pass, or you can expect this game is looking spectacular, you're showing us a great commercial. I think back to the legendary commercials we had of Halo 3, Believe, and Master Chief lifting his head up with this plasma grenade. And I think of Mad World playing in the Gears of War 1 trailer. You know what I mean? I think of things like that. Where are our marketing at for things like that anymore? You don't see that anymore.
Correct.
Not, you know what I mean? That's the stuff I miss. So I would say they just need to step up their marketing. But as far as smaller shows and stuff like that, like Nintendo Digest or whatever, absolutely do something like that. I don't, I'll give Microsoft credit though. By the way, we have to give them some love because Microsoft was everywhere last year or this year rather. I'm already moving into 2023. Look at that.
Yeah.
They were everywhere. Except the VGAs.
Right.
That's the only place they didn't really show up. But other than that, you have to give them credit for being a force in all those other shows and holding down the summer too. You have to give them that. So I'm not trying to trash them. All I'm coming from is an angle of disappointment. It's like, you don't miss out on this biggest thing where you showed us this thing matters to you, so now it matters to us. But Punk, I think if they have a few smaller shows, nothing major, because they still have, of course, E3 coming up next year.
Absolutely, of course.
So, of course, they can't spill the whole, load at the time, but give us something, right? And keep leading us into that summer show, and then show us what we can expect in the second half. Absolutely, I think that's the way to go.
Yep. Great points. And I knew you would, Umbra, with all you've been talking about it. So, great points. PTK. listen, you kind of heard the setup here. So
Mhm.
again, what were your feelings on the Game Awards and Microsoft's lack of showing up, and then going forward into 2023 with what we do know and some of the hiring they've done, and they got this new production studio. What would you like to see specifically, if you have an idea from Microsoft's marketing, or what would you tell them if you had the opportunity to speak to that team about what they should focus on going forward into a big year for Xbox? I think we can say that it is going to be a big year, no matter what happens with the ABK deal. Go ahead, PTK.
So it's a funny question because shout out to Blue. We were actually talking about this before. We were in party chat earlier today, and we were talking about it. We asked this question. Shout out to Ashtray too. He was in there, but it's a funny question, right? So it's a series of events that happen, and this feels familiar. The energy after the show felt familiar, and it was weird for me because I didn't feel the same way. So I think the one thing we got to understand here is we got to take everything within context, right? I completely understand the disappointment, right? Like they just weren't there at all. I don't have a argument for that, right? I can't defend that, oh, they just weren't there at all. But I can say the current position where Xbox currently is, they've never been before. They're dealing with things they've never had to deal with before. There's no precedence to this ABK deal. And when it happened, we talked about what type of ripple effect is this going to have on the entire company, let alone Xbox themselves.
We sure did.
So with that being said, and us all having that knowledge for 8 months prior to this VGAs happening, I wasn't disappointed at all whatsoever. Even I get the whole 103 million viewers. At the end of the day, to me, it's a what have you done for me lately? As soon as they announce this next event, nobody's going to care about the VGAs. Like we're not gonna, like, that's not even gonna be a thing anymore. But I get the 103 million people. It's a great place to see, casuals and a lot of people that don't watch these smaller gaming events, that don't watch E3, that do watch VGAs. It was a missed opportunity from that standpoint. But I'm not gonna treat the VGAs like it's E3. I get the eyes, but it's not the same type of event. Like we generally get 1-2 announcements, big announcements from Xbox. They don't usually bring 8-9 trailers to the VGAs. We get a couple big announcements, and that's about it. But with this particular year, there's a lot going on around Xbox, and I once again, I maybe I'm just way too understanding of the situation, and I don't actually know exactly why they didn't show anything, but leads me to believe there's enough evidence to think that this might have just been a ripple effect of this whole ABK deal. Maybe that's not good enough for some people. Maybe some people like, oh, that's BS. There's still no reason. But I mean, once again, I'm not in those rooms. I don't have those discussions. But I just think that as long as they show us what we have coming up in the next 12 months, I think they will be completely fine. As long as they announce this event and we get a decent quality event, we get some dates, we get some gameplay, we get some updates, maybe a couple updates that we weren't expecting. I know they're not going to spill the beans, like you said, Umbra, because E3 is right around the corner. You don't want to do too much or show too much, but maybe just drop us a couple lines in the water just to keep our lines wet, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that that's enough. I do think people were jumping off a cliff, and it's a Chicken Little mentality in the Xbox community that I don't subscribe to, because I think it's a carryover as well too from 2022, the missed opportunity from the first party standpoint. I think a lot of people take that and say, well, they missed that first party opportunity, and they did. Obviously, Starfield being moved, Redfall being moved. I think those were direct reflections of the ABK deal as well. Maybe not, partially direct reflections, maybe not the entire reason why they were moved, but I think there was part of the reason why those were moved as well too. So I don't know, man. I just feel like as long as we get this event that they got planned for us, I think it's going to be a great event. Hopefully they announce it soon. Maybe we get it the first 2 months out of the year. That I think everything will be fine. Now, as far as what they need to do going forward, obviously we've talked about marketing forever with Xbox. Like that's one thing. Visibility is key. It's something that Sony's been able to nail. Sony, to be fair, they're really good at that. Same Nintendo's been able to figure that out for themselves as well. And it seems like Xbox really hasn't nailed that down yet. But I don't know if that's Xbox or just the community feeling like they haven't nailed it down yet, because they've tried a lot of different things. You know, they've taken the Sony strategy. You know, they've increased commercials, they've increased visibility on IPs. Sometimes it just feels like the community is not necessarily happy where things are at that particular point in time, depending on what's happened. So there are some opportunities that they can take advantage of next year. Luckily, they got a lot of bullets in the chamber. There's a lot of meat on the bone, but they got a lot to work with. Pong, they lucky, and this is where we talked about this, Pong, about them having so much shit, just so many IPs, so many games that like these things can happen. And if this had happened 4 or 5 years ago, it'd be a disaster. Whereas now they can just take they can take the negative feedback for this short period of time for now. They can withstand that and then come back and drop a good show, and I think all will be fine and everybody will be back on board. So I just don't prescribe to the idea that this is some like major disappointment. I do think it was a missed opportunity because of, you know, it is a large event where a lot of people are watching, and obviously as a business you want your product to be seen there. But I'm okay going forward. I think they're still going to show everything that we hopefully a lot of things that we want them to see. So I'm just not. I don't know. I just wasn't there with it. You know what I mean? I when the show was over, I was like, oh, that's a good show. On top of it, before I wrap it up here, so we can get to Fuzz. On top of it, like 60% of what we saw at the VGAs, we're gonna play anyway. So a lot of the stuff was third party, a lot of the stuff was multi-plat. So I'm fine with that as well. It wasn't like we didn't get anything. Now, it did feel like a Sony show. I get the optics, but I'm still happy about some of the offerings coming to Xbox. I wasn't ignorant to everything that they showed because it feels like people are just focusing on, oh, this was a Sony show and Sony showed up, and it was just, you know, it was a lot of visibility for that brand. It was. But if you really watch the show, a lot of that shit was coming to everything, or at least, you know, a lot of it coming to Xbox.
Nope. And great points. And, you know, thanks for coming from a different perspective, PTK. I mean, again, there truly isn't no right or wrong in this matter. Again, it's going to all be about your own personal optics. Yeah, I think the discussion again, it's good for us, those of us that actually care about this stuff. Sure, a lot of people just don't ever even think about the marketing side of things, but those of us that do deep dive into this industry and kind of look at the whole business aspect of it, it is interesting to get somebody else's perspective who does come at it from a different point of view, which is exactly what happened on Xbox Ultimate last night for an hour and a half. There is no podcast outside of Umbra Spaces that talked about marketing for an hour and a half. I can guarantee you that. But we did last night, and it was 3 against 2. I'm not going to include Insane Cakes, who does work for ZeniMax Online, who joined us. He was the neutral referee in kind of the area, but it was me and Mav versus Jasper, Psychonauts, and Fuzzy last night. So, Fuzzy, you've had some time to sleep on it, about 24 hours. To consider all the wrongs that you did last night and said, and we're not even going as deep as we did last night because we got in a whole lot of cans of worms last night about this. But specifically, I wanted to stay focused on the VGAs here. So for you, your personal thoughts on the VGAs as far as Xbox being there, not being there, however you felt about that, and then looking ahead to 2023. You know, what would you like to see from them if you had control of their marketing department? What would you personally do with it? The same? Would you go a different route? Would you add some stuff? What would you do going into 2023, which is going to have obviously a lot more content than we had this year from their first party? So go ahead.
All right. So starting with the VGAs, I think the big thing was I was disappointed because I was totally, especially with the price increase talk that they did before the VGAs, I was totally expecting that we would see like a release date for Redfall and whatnot, because those are going to be the games that are going to now be 70. So it's like, oh, well, kind of like what we discussed before. Hey, this is in preparation for us seeing, you know, a pre-order page that says 70, and it's better to kind of get ahead of it as opposed to, you know, be reactionary where it's like, what's this $70? Oh, by the way, the price went up. No, at least they kind of forewarned us to some extent. So there was an expectation that at least Forza, Starfield, Redfall, and maybe even, although I don't think it falls into the same price category, the Minecraft Legends, I figured at least something on those were going to be there. And I think for me, the big thing I was expecting was a date at least for Redfall, and maybe some more visual stuff for Starfield, more so than what was in like the the
Yeah,
sizzle
we got
reel
an
or
extra
whatever.
10 seconds
Yeah.
within the
But I
sizzle
was
reel.
kind of I was kind of expecting a little bit more than that. But after it was all said and done, didn't hold that against them per se. I mean, yeah, I kind of understand the whole ABK thing, which they're really tucking their tail between their legs kind of deal with this whole thing. And I understand why to some extent, but it just it feels wrong as a fan of the brand or a fan of the platform. But it's like big picture wise, if it results in a better, result, okay, great. But at this point, we already knew. Although you have to have these things planned out 3 weeks, 3 months, sometimes more than 3 months in advance, as far as what you're going to have prepared for, playback and stuff like that. Finding out earlier that day or earlier that week that the FTC was like, "Oh nope, we're going to court," or we're going to sue the block type of thing. It just made matters even worse. It's like, okay, you played the
That's a
nice
good point,
guys
Fuzz.
that
I
were,
forgot about that.
in the fetal position in the corner, and you still got kicked in the nuts. So it's like, it for what at that point. But in the grand scheme of things, it's at my bare minimum. I expected to at least see the three big titles in some form or fashion, more than just the sizzle reel stuff. And it just felt weird. Okay, this award show where you don't really have anything of your platform really up for the awards. There was a few that were multi-plat that were up for awards type of thing, but it's like you don't really have anything that you can call your own that's up for awards, and you're kind of sponsoring this. Oh, the commercials by Samsung and Game Pass, and it just felt weird. But overall, with us having word that there's a show coming up, I'll hold judgment until that show. But in the grand scheme of things, it just felt wrong that they weren't there at all, in the sense of at least the next three big titles that are coming. I didn't expect anything else, for the fact that why give these regulatory bodies any more ammunition. Now, moving to the show aspect, as far as what I would like to see, or what I would, if I had the keys to marketing, and that was part of the stuff I was arguing about, because I think between Sony and Xbox, at least to my knowledge, as far as what I've been able to research, the biggest difference between the two is that Sony uses an outside marketing group. Xbox doesn't. That's not to say that they don't have talent. They have plenty of talent there. But I think at some point, and I found this out in the profession that I was in, as far as working on the website and doing the marketing for that, at one point, you get a narrow vision. Like you understand your current customer base, but you have blinders on those that are outside of that sometimes. So sometimes the higher ups need to say, all right, for this next ad, we're going outside you guys. Big companies do it all the time. They have their own internal group, and they'll go external sometimes, whether it be for a new product line, new marketing approach, new campaign, whatever the case may be, because it's to get fresh eyes on their market or their target audience. So first thing, give me the keys. I'm hiring an outside group. It's not a knock on the people there currently, but it needs to happen. You need somebody that's not in the Microsoft, aura right now, to see the market and approach it differently. That's the first thing. Next thing, for whatever show you do, like let's say you do like something a little bit bigger than the state of play, but a little bit smaller than an XO type of thing, you got to make it so you stick to this split show program. Like, you want to give your devs time to talk and do a deeper dive, and there's going to be fans out there that are interested in some of those deeper dives. But if you want to get, I guess, the most eyes on your product, just from a standpoint of attracting more gamers to your platform, you got to do just the video stuff, nonstop gameplay, nonstop trailer, whatever the case may be. Just knock that out in an hour or less. The smaller the time frame, the better, because people get antsy. Get all of your stuff in a line, as far as just show the games, and say, hey, catch us tomorrow, where we go into a deeper dive on this and that and the other thing. But focus on just the games themselves. Like, if you hadn't learned anything from the Xbox One generation with the TV, only show games on your primary show. Show games. The follow up, make that the deeper dive. Like, hey, we're going to do ray tracing, or we're going to talk about the AI, and no, all of that on a separate deal. Because if I'm not really into Redfall's loot process, I don't want to spend the 5 minutes of hearing them talk about it when all I really wanted to see was the trailer for Starfield. So, and if I'm not really into Starfield's, or procedurally generated planets, and I'm there just to see about the racing for Forza, don't make me sit through 5 minutes and I'm talking about it. So just show the gameplay on the one. The next day, your deeper dives, or however many days, like maybe Tuesdays Redfall, Wednesdays Starfield, and Thursdays Forza. If you want to break it up some sort of way, please do it that way, because that will give your target audience more of the details that they're hungry for, as opposed to having to sift through stuff. The other thing, as far as from a marketing standpoint, try to capture some of the most successful showings, um, uh, dealings, or things that they've done. Like Apple has always been the one that's famous for just one more thing. Like if and I know this was part of the debate yesterday, yesterday, in reference to showing a game too soon and then going radio silent for months on end, type of thing, which it seems like something that PlayStation can get away with and Nintendo can get away with. They can show a title
Man,
and
look.
maybe a wrong launch year, and nobody says boo about it. But the minute Xbox shows anything, it's like you got microscopes and monocles, and everything is laser focused on where's the info, where's actual gameplay. Enough of the CGI stuff. We want to know when the launch date is, how much. It seems like it's a double standard for the most part. So if you're going to have the one more thing, make sure it's a project at this point that's within the 2-year window. And I know things can change, things can get pushed back. I mean, Everwild is a perfect example of it. Beautiful display as far as when they showed it the first time, but they didn't really have, I guess, the concept of how the gameplay was going to unfold. So in cases like that, that might be the one you don't want to show just yet. Maybe you show a title and let them have the public, or have the PR person for that studio talk about, oh, we're working on another project outside of our current title, Sea of Thieves. It's going to be some time before we'll share more with you, but just know that we will continue to support Sea of Thieves for the next umpteen years, and in about 3 years we'll probably, or a couple of years, we'll let you know more about the project that we're currently working on. But if the project is a little bit closer to the release date, like let's say something like Avowed, like we all kind of believe Avowed is within the 2-year window, that's the one that you maybe shouldn't have shown when you did, and show it now, or at least show what you showed 2 years ago. Show that now as opposed to when you showed it 2 years ago, because I think, like, one of the things we were talking about when they showed that stuff at the the Game Awards and other events, it's because of all the, I wouldn't say lackluster, but the missing new IPs from the previous generation, that they had to show something. Like, they had that new console coming out, so they have to tempt you or hook you for what's in the pipeline. And Sony's good at doing stuff like that as well. They'll show you a game 5 years out and show you that same gameplay almost 5 years in a row until it's finally released. But for whatever reason, Xbox is held to a different standard. So it's they're damned if they do, they damned if they don't. But I think they got to keep some of their project names closer to the vest. If it's within 2 years, that's when you go ahead and maybe unveil the title or the name, if you already copyrighted. I mean, people are going to do super sleuth stuff and look at like patents for names and all that. So by the time you do that, you might as well release at least the title of it. And if you have a pretty strong concept where 70 to 80% of the stuff is going to definitely make it into the game, focus on that. And then the other 20 to 30% that might get changed or flipped around or whatever, hold off on showing that until closer to launch, and unless it's actually in stone that it's going to be in. But I think the big thing now is they just have to be better at unveiling stuff. They had to get better at figuring out the timeline, moving forward. Like the stuff that they showed us a couple of years ago, like Perfect Dark. I hate to say it, I think it's more like 3 or 4 years out. Sure, we get updates that, Crystal Dynamics is doing great with it and blah, blah, blah. But I think it's much further out. The State of Decay 3, same issue. They had some internal harassment issues where the original founder decided to, recruit half the team for his new studio, which, stuff like that happens. Not the harassment aspect. You hope the stuff like that doesn't happen. But typically when you buy a studio, whoever was the founder is like, you know what, I can do this all over again. Or, yeah, you know what, I'm not quite ready to take orders from somebody else. Let me start this other studio. Or some people beneath or like not quite the founder, but some of the other heads might say, you know what, I'd rather just start my own thing and go from there. And that happens all the time. And whenever like what PlayStation had to do with Bungie, where they overpaid to some extent to kind of keep people on board, even though some people still left. It's one of those things you try to do that so you have as much of the team intact for whatever project that's currently moving forward. And say the K3 kind of had to, be put on hold to some extent because there was a decent amount of people that left. I always looked at the initiative as being somewhat problematic, not for the stuff that came out later, but whenever you hire, the big cats from all these other studios, that's a lot of opinions. That's a lot of ways of doing things. You have people that were running studios themselves and now they're working under somebody else that they may not have worked under before. It's like too many cooks in the kitchen. So that was, I wouldn't say it was destined to fail kind of thing, but you were definitely going to have some, speed bumps along the way. But overall, I just think from a marketing standpoint, on occasion, Microsoft needs to go outside their walls, hire a team for maybe 1 or 2 campaigns, see how it goes. I'm pretty sure the team that's in-house will be able to pick up on anything that hits or, has a better return as far as, engagement and stuff. And another thing I think they underutilize, and we kind of talked about it briefly, although it was probably a little uncomfortable for Insane Cakes, but it's like, Bethesda's been always great at their marketing approach. They don't tell you the game's coming out until just before it's ready to come out type of thing. They probably need to lean on that approach a good bit more. But that I've rambled on enough. But my view hasn't really changed. It's just a matter of we kind of have what we have with them as far as marketing is concerned now. The only thing I would suggest is, looking outside their walls sometimes for campaigns. Not forever, just try a few things. And this good luck, have fun, it ain't it. It ain't it. I keep on telling them it would have been better if they said something like achieve more and then, work on the achievement thing. And hey, it ties into achievements. But
it does.
Enough of my marketing hat. So I
looks like Fuzzy got him some good sleep, Pong.
He did. He definitely did. Great points, Fuzzy. And again, I'll wrap up my side real quick here, PTK, so we can move on to Fuzzy's topic here. Again, I was more in your camp, PTK, overall with the Game Awards because of my firm belief that this decision was made long ago. And whether I like it or not, it was made. And, it happened. And I said during our live broadcast that Umbra was with that if they did have a show early 2023, that as far as the Xbox fans go, that would be, again, we have the shortest term memories in the world. All would be forgotten. And it looks like they're going to do that. And I thought that was probably their plan B. I said that live on the air while we were talking about this, that they probably had a plan B in place, depending on what kind of went down with the FTC, because they would kind of get a rough idea of what was happening. As far as going forward, we've been talking about this. I've been talking about this. I started talking about this on Boom Show 2 years ago when it came to the marketing standpoint. Again, this is not about being like Sony or Nintendo. This is a credit to what Microsoft and Xbox now have built. They have more projects in the works than Sony and Nintendo, which means from my standpoint, they need to do more than those two to make sure these games get spotlighted as necessary. And to Fuzzy's point, to what we were discussing last night, if you choose to announce a game early and sell that hope, that's cool with me. But I would like to get an update on those games farther out than just, hey, now we're going to wait until 6 months before launch or a year before launch before we talk about it again. I would like to actually see something. That's because I have an interest in what's happening behind the scenes. Again, this industry is way too secretive for its own good. Way too secretive. Okay, I can't stand it how they protect this stuff like it's top secret assets, like they have nuclear codes or something. Okay, this is gaming. We get unreleased photographs from movies, TVs all the time. We get to see behind the scenes on movies and TV all the time. What's the difference with video games? We should be able to see the behind the scenes, right? And I think that comes from my interest. Now, if you're not interested in that, if you think Xbox is doing absolutely 100% fantastic in their marketing, I'm not here to argue with you at all. Again, it's about perspective, okay? But what I am saying is now that they have this much content, and this is without ABK going through, we have 40 plus projects in the works underneath their umbrella. That's 8 per year for the next 5 years on average. Okay, you have to give these things proper spotlight. And that's without even getting into the third-party deals. So I would like to see the smaller shows. If I was in charge, I would have the smaller shows in between. I would have a springtime show, right? And I would lead that up hype-wise into E3, but I would spotlight the shows spotlight the games, that are coming in a short period of time. And if you have that many games, and we do have a couple that might be dropping, well, we know Age of Empires 2 is for sure, in the beginning of the year, then you have an earlier show than spring to spotlight those early games coming out, right? I think there is nothing wrong with saying that you, on top of what they already do, that they can add in some Nintendo Direct style game shows. And again, I'm not saying it has to be a copycat scenario at all. Put your own spin on it, but make sure that you give people updates. And then every once in a while, as Fuzzy was talking about, those games that might be 2 years out, that E3, where if you're going to stay focused on 12 months, cool. I said that from the beginning. This is their new way forward. I'm cool with 12 months. I don't care. But those games that might be out that you already announced that might be 2 years away, give us a little update on those. Give us a little behind the scenes. Show us something. If people criticize you, lean into that. Screw those people that aren't happy with CGI trailers. Screw those people that say we need more gameplay. Who cares about those people? Lean into it and say, you know what? We're doing this for the rest of everybody else who gets excited about this stuff. If you're not excited for it, that's okay. I think that's what you do. And I hope that with these hires that they've had, this new studio that we got to see this week, this new production studio, I think they're headed that way. And we're going to find out. And again, the show, whether it's January, February, whatever it is, I want to see them come out. I think they should have come out this past week and said, here's the date of the new show that we're going to have come January, February. Can't wait to see you in the new year. We're going on vacation. Talk to you real soon. We got a lot to show you. I think that would have been great. And the last point I'll point out, something that Xbox has done such a better job at was setting expectations leading up to these shows. We saw that change when we got some disappointing shows. Greeny started coming out and saying, hey, this is what you kind of expect. Why was there no communication? And again, I know Sony and Nintendo don't do this. I don't care about Sony and Nintendo. I think they're wrong for not communicating with their fan base the way that Xbox does. I wish all these companies were here. Okay? That's not what I'm talking about. But since Greeny started doing that, he set the expectations for a lot of these shows, and it turned out very well. The only one they didn't was E3. They didn't let anybody know they were going to a 12-month calendar. If they would have done that prior, again, there would have been a lot less discussion. We would have known. But this one, the Game Awards, all Greeny or somebody from Xbox had to do was come out and say, hey, guys, know you're excited about the Game Awards. There's going to be a lot of great third-party stuff there. Just to let you know, don't expect any don't expect any first-party information or first-party, whatever you want to say, showings there. And that would have been settled. Right. And again, that's something they've already established. They have great communication with their fan base, which is something I appreciate. That's all they had to do. And a lot of this would not have been an issue. Sure, there would have been still people scratching their heads going, why aren't you going to be here? But at the end of the day, it would have set those expectations a lot clearer. So that's it, PTK. Thank you, brothers, for all your conversation.
Can I add one little point to that?
Yeah.
Just to say, and you all had great points. Even if I don't, we don't see eye to eye on all of it, I think all of us want the best for Xbox. That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, those who are further entrenched don't understand it sometimes when it comes from another perspective. And I'll say this, often, and when I had this space, I was cursing. I was like, literally what you just said, Paul. I don't care about Sony. I don't care about Nintendo.
Yeah.
I only care in the sense of Microsoft needs to match Sony when it comes to marketing. We know it's costly. I see you go in the chat. How much you think this costs? Yeah, it costs a lot.
Yeah.
Microsoft has enough to spend to
Yes.
do it marketing. Mind you, they did that for Halo at first, but Halo was delayed, so that marketing didn't land the way it should have. They spent a lot for that. But I just want to say this. I think when we talk about that in this way, we ignore, only when it's convenient, by the way, that Microsoft is not in the position of Nintendo and Sony.
Correct.
They are in third place.
Mhm.
And part of that is some of this marketing issue that they've had. A lot of it is because of the lack of cadence of releases of their games, AAA games at least, right? A lot of it's self-inflicted. A lot of it is bias. We can acknowledge that. Fuzzy pointed that out too. I agree. There is bias. Microsoft will get more scrutiny than Sony will. It's unfair. We talked about that literally Friday on our show. However, you have to keep in mind that Microsoft is in third place. Sony can afford not to have a show. Sony can afford not to have the advertisement for this or that. Nintendo can do the same.
That's crazy.
You know why though? You know why though? It seems crazy, but it's true.
Well, no, I understand. I'm saying that's crazy because I get the idea. You know?
Right. And it for us, and I get it from those people who are saying it. I really do. Trust me, I do get it, guys. But y'all have to take into account they don't have to do what Microsoft has to do because Microsoft is in an uphill climb. Those two are at the pinnacle right now. You see what I mean? Nintendo's outselling both, and they don't even advertise like Sony and Microsoft do, or like Sony specifically. But because they have so much love from their fan base, they have so much faith from their people who, and the nostalgia they can bank off of with the IP they have, they're good to go. They sell the most games, first party games out of any company. What Mario did, like 30 million? I mean, ridiculous numbers for their first party. Numbers that I wish Microsoft could get for their games. Sony wishes that they can get it. And they don't lower their prices. Sony is Nintendo is anti-consumer as hell. And will still get their customers, will still be loyalists to them. So I'm just saying this to say, Microsoft is in a position where they haven't had the cadence of releases that Sony and Nintendo has had. That's why they're in a position where they have to do this. So when we're saying, hey, we want them to do this and do that, you all have to understand we're coming from a place of wanting them to be better. We want them to be great. In a while ago, somebody said, Sony is not Microsoft. You're damn right.
Right.
Sony is not in the position in Microsoft. And somebody also mentioned, I forgot how it was worded, but it was more along the lines of, I believe Microsoft doesn't have to do, I forgot. I'm sorry. It was so many things that went by. But my basic point is to say, Microsoft is an uphill climb, and they're making strides. I think we can all agree. And you all made great points on how they should approach these things, but we can't get complacent and be like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's not fine. Right. We had no AAA games this year, y'all. You can't ignore that. And I know that it's reasons that added to that, right? We get it. But it's a continued thing of a lack of structure and cadence of releases that Sony and Nintendo don't suffer from. So that's the only thing we're talking about. But I believe that's going to be rectified next year, to be fair.
Yes.
I'm just saying the marketing, and let's hope the marketing steps up. That's all we're saying.
To me, it's not that black and white though. Like it's never that black and white. Like that. Like so when we talk about Sony, we talk about Nintendo. Like it's never that black and white. Just in regarding like how these companies are viewed, the perspective, like the leeway that each company gets. Like that took Nintendo 20-30 years to get that leeway. Like that took Sony 25 years to get that type of leeway. Like Xbox is coming off a generation in which I could say like that was the worst generation Xbox has ever had. And we're 2.5 years into the new generation. Like I don't, and it sometimes to me it feels like, is it Xbox? There are things you can absolutely, there are irrefutable facts there. And I don't have a marketing degree, but there's probably some things that they can do. And we've mentioned these things over the years. And I do think that they've done a lot of those things because quiet is kept. I haven't actually had an issue or even brought up the lack or any actual problems with Xbox. This is just me speaking with their marketing in a while. It's been probably a year and a half, maybe even 2 since we've had a topic about, man, is Xbox dropping the ball regarding marketing? I know I haven't had that conversation. So I think that they have been doing fairly well. It's just that I don't get the whole like Sky, you know what I mean? I don't understand that energy. Like I just think that if this show comes out and they show us a few things here and there, we'll see, because it's never gonna be perfect, bro. Like there's too many balls in the air to juggle. Stuff is getting moved around. They got one plate in one hand, the ABK deal. They got all this other stuff in the other hand, and this is not me just like giving them all the leeway, because I do agree with a lot of the points you made, Umber, just regarding their visibility or lack thereof at this particular last event. I just think all those things considered, they've actually put themselves, they're in a far better spot. And I don't think any of us can argue than they were 3, 4, 5 years ago, like far better spot than they were, and we'll see how this all plays out, irregardless of them missing the VGAs. Cause I don't think that's going to have a lasting effect on somebody wanting to buy an Xbox in the next 12 months. I think there's going to be too much happening up until E3, up until these other things, these other events that are going to make or break people's mind about that happening. But I do agree to a lot of your points, though, about them just. It's not about Sony and Nintendo, because and you're right that people don't get that point, and I do think sometimes people get a bit defensive. Like we're not arguing and saying they need to be like Sony and Nintendo, but it's not and I don't know if you wanted to elaborate on what I was just saying, but it's just that like
you hit it on the head,
bro.
You hit it on the head, honestly. And it's not, and then when we say that, it's like my topic, for instance, on that space was, does Microsoft need to emulate basically Sony in the marketing part? It's not to say I want them to be like Sony. I want them to take their games and put as much marketing into it that Sony does to properly put those games out there. Now, I'm not saying they need to copy Sony, have third person over to show the games, although I wouldn't mind one or two of them here and there, whatever, don't get me wrong. But yeah, don't copy them. Be Microsoft, be Xbox. But I want you to outdo them. I'm an Xbox gamer. I prefer Xbox. I love Xbox. Everybody who knows me knows that. So when I say these things, it's not coming from a place of, oh, let me just down Xbox. It's not coming from that. And a lot of people take that, like you said, to get defensive when you don't have to. Microsoft, the big boys, they're going to be all right. And even just to say, even with all that they're juggling, Microsoft have more than enough hands to juggle all of that. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not here. I don't want to say like I'm not here to make excuses, because that's too militant. I'm just simply saying that, and it's not, the sky is not falling. You're right. And that's why I said, like, I'm not trashing them. I'm just saying I know that they can be better, and they started off better to launch this generation. I'm just saying they need to keep that momentum going. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Don't drop the ball when you are here at the 1 yard line. That's all I'm saying with Microsoft.
Got it. No, that's understandable. So I want to make sure Fuzz gets this topic, but that was a good one, man. Once again, we can talk about that all day. Like Pong said, they had a long conversation on FSP about it, about an hour and a half. But chat, appreciate you guys. Once again, I know people are going to be divisive about this chat. We love all you guys. I don't think anybody's throwing their Xbox in the trash can. I hope not. If you are, I feel sorry for you. You should have probably just donated that to someone else so that they can get a better use out of it. But I do think there's a lot of division amongst the community about how these things should go for Xbox, because I feel like we talk about it the most as well too as a community. I feel like other communities don't have that kind of discussion as much. But let's go ahead and get to your topic too, Fuzz, before we wrap this whole show up, man. We got to let you get in here.
All right, so this one's more of like a recent news story on like Windows Central. I think even Brad Sams and a few others have talked about it as well. It's about the ad tier of Game Pass potentially being a thing. Like right now, they've sent a survey. I want to say in the Europe region, as far as for like a upcoming tier, where I guess Game Pass currently is like 21 euros or something like that. That might be like Game Pass Ultimate. And they're offering like a $3 or €3 alternative that would be mixed with ads, kind of like your Hulu or other ad-based streaming services and stuff, where I guess the fundamental change, other than the ads themselves, is that instead of having the first party stuff day and date, it would have like a 6-month window before you'd have access to it. And they've recently had a patent where they're incorporating ads during like paused gameplay or during possibly cutscenes where you may have something at the bottom. Hopefully, there's not like text or something like that you have to read. But they're working on the best way to implement ads into that tier, so that way there will be like a low entry tier that maybe somebody that just wants to kind of test things out first, or only looks to play like maybe the first party stuff, but they're not as concerned about day and date. And because this is like their secondary console, this might work out. But I wanted to kind of get your guys' take as far as with them doing the survey. A lot of times some of these things become something, and sometimes they get completely dropped because of pushback or feedback that they get as far as that option. But I'll start with you, Umbra. If as far as if there was a Game Pass ad tier that's, let's say now, since Game Pass is like $10, I guess, to make it tempting, if there was something that was in like the $1 to $2 a month range, um, with ads, would you be interested in that versus? Because I'm under the impression you have Game Pass Ultimate now currently, correct?
I do. Yeah, I have no interest in the new one. However, I can see how it will be beneficial for those who are kind of looking for, even a deeper sale
Mhm.
into this, to get into the ecosystem. But I'll say this: I don't know how well it'll do, just because, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but maybe people will come in there and just say, "Hey, I'll play these third party games." And all of these games that they have in there, some of the older ones, whatever, and I'm content with that until the new games drop. So I believe the rumor is that it's 6 months before the first party games would drop into it, right?
Right.
See, I couldn't do that. And part of my reason for subscribing to Game Pass Ultimate and loving it is because of games day and date. So if
Mhm.
you take that away from me, and it's 6 months of a wait time, it takes a lot of that shine off for me.
Yeah,
Now,
man.
so and the worst part of that is, if you go to Sony, they don't have day and date at all. That's why I refuse to subscribe to their service. It's
Right.
just not worth it. Now, so yeah, I mean, for me, it would not be worth it. And I game share as well, so my nephew gets the chance to use this. I
Mhm.
I can't imagine missing out all those first party games for 6 months. I think that for people like myself who are achievement hunters, who want to be up on things, doing a whole content creation thing, that
Mhm.
wouldn't work for me, you
Yeah.
know. But I think there is an audience always out there for something, right?
Right.
So who knows who it could work for. I will give them applause or credit, at least, if this is a real thing and it's going to be something that comes into fruition, that is a smart, on their self, on behalf of themselves, where they get the ad revenue, get the ads out there,
Mhm.
and they get to gain more customers, possibly, who can't afford Xbox Game Pass Ultimate or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think it is. There's always somebody, because sometimes I look through it only the lens of myself, and it's like, $15, that's nothing, right?
Yeah.
Well, so to somebody, it's something.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it's that cheap and they can get in there and pay that whatever a month, yeah, that might just be a crazy grab for them, rather, I suppose. Game Pass is already a killer app, so
Yeah.
yeah, lowering the price like that for entry, but having to suffer through ads, I'm thinking some of those people will absolutely be fine with that. For me, I would not. I pay for YouTube Premium, and and I tried to tell myself to stop, but it's like, man, no commercials. It's hard. It's hard not to
Yeah.
to get away from those ads, man. I don't suffer from them anymore. So it's kind of like, the peasants watching these ads. I don't do it. So I don't know. It wouldn't be for me, but there is
Mhm.
always something out there for somebody. So I'm not going to dismiss it. It just shocked me when I saw it the other day. I was like, wow, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it. I'll just say that.
Nice. Nice. Well, definitely appreciate your feedback on that. Pong, how about you? When it comes to like an ad based streaming service, would this be something necessarily for you, or how would you feel as far as it being an option out there for those that might just be curious about Game Pass, or maybe this is their second console or coming from mobile? What would your outlook on this tier be in comparison to now?
Well, not for me at all. Absolutely not. I have zero interest in that. I think options are always good.
Mhm.
Again, I had the, anytime you give more people an option to figure out what's going to be great for them is the way to go. I've got Hulu. I don't pay for the no ad Hulu. I keep the ads in.
Mhm.
Because they don't bother me. It's like watching regular TV. So I got so used to that growing up that to me, sure they're annoying, but at the same time, it's not something I'm willing to pay extra for to not have it that way. But again, if you're going to put that in there, I don't like it because it opens up the door in more areas. I don't ever want to see the creep, which we've seen from other publishers like 2K trying to sneak in ads for NBA, right? That kind of stuff. They got blasted, and thankfully they've pulled most of them. I don't mind if it's appropriate. Like in game, I see there's like Gatorade ads, right? In game,
Yeah.
like they're commercial during a timeout, right? They do this little read like it was part of the game, like part of the broadcast. That makes sense to me, right? That doesn't bother because that's a part of like watching basketball. So for me, I don't care about that kind of stuff. But if it starts to get intrusive, if it's something that actually shows up on my screen even during cutscenes or anything like that, no, I don't want any part of that. But if it leads to more people finding a way to get into Game Pass because of the budget aspects of it, and they're willing to go through, having the ads on there, not getting necessarily day and date first party titles, then so be it. Then I'm fine with that as long as you're not going to change the ultimate or the regular Game Pass, and you're not going to start adding little things here and there. I'm cool with that. Just giving other people an option to say, hey, we know that maybe Game Pass, you don't play as many games as a lot of people do. Maybe Game Pass looks a little out of reach, or maybe you can't justify the $10 or the $15 a month, but here's an option to get you in cheap. Since you're not playing a whole lot of games, every once in a while, when you do play a game, you're going to get an ad here and there. Then yeah, that's fine with me. It gives more opportunity to more people to experience the ecosystem. So, and maybe they upgrade. Maybe they find themselves gaming more, and then they upgrade to the non-advertisement portion or edition, I should say, or tier, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, no, I'm okay with it in general as a option. So I'll leave it at that. But for me, absolutely not. No, I'll continue to pay premium prices.
Understood. Greatly appreciate your feedback on that. Now, PTK, when it comes to like the ad tier, being somewhere in, let's say, the $2 or $3 a month range versus like the, Game Pass Ultimate being 15. And we all know that there's still that carrot, hopefully coming here soon as far as the family Game Pass plan. How do you feel as far as this being added as like an additional option? I mean, I kind of know where you're at as far as this is not going to be an option for you or desired for you. But for those looking to get into, Game Pass just to kind of like try it out, how do you feel about this being added as a potential tier in the near future?
I'm right in line with Pong. Like I don't, it's not going to be for me. I'm going to continue to pay the premium price for the access that I currently get, right? And that's even I'm saying premium like it's super expensive, right? Like Game Pass is a super steal. It's the best deal in gaming, hands down. But you know what I mean, right? So, but I'm going to continue to pay to get day one access to get all of the cool perks, minus the ads, because I don't do ads. I have an ad blocker on my computer. Like I don't like. I'm not a big fan of ads in general. And if they're tasteful, like Pong was mentioning, 2K does some ads. If they, that's part of the game. They don't completely pull you out like almost like a YouTube experience, right? If the ads are going to be like YouTube, I don't want them. I don't want anything to do with those YouTube ads, unskippable ads. No, thank you. I can't deal with that, especially if I'm in the middle of doing something, and I don't know. But once again,
can you imagine it, Blam?
oh
Right,
Lord
in the
have
middle of a
mercy.
mission, and then all of a sudden, get Pepsi or something like that. Comes
Oh
across
Lord,
the
I can't even imagine. But once again, the big thing here is I'm 100% for giving people options. All of us, all our different financial, points in our life. Not everybody makes the same amount of money. So giving somebody the ability to get in the ecosystem, if I was at that point and I couldn't pay the 15 a month, and I think getting access to 400 or 500 plus games for $3-4 and having to deal with the ads is absolutely worth it. I would do it at that point if that was where I was at. So from looking from that perspective, giving other people options to get into the ecosystem is always a good thing. I do think it's inevitable as well. So while we're on the topic that Game Pass, the price is going to go up at some point, and providing an alternative option, even with the ads, is still a better than not having an option at all. So for people that may not be able to deal with the price bump, because it's coming at some point in time, we're going to see a price bump on Game Pass. So having that option, even with the ads, is okay with me. Now, once again, like I said, personally, not something I'm going to do, but I'm all for it.
Awesome. Greatly appreciate your feedback on that as well. I think for me, the biggest thing is options are always great, but I always have like that little fear or that little tingle in the back of my head, like, okay, when does this start to creep into other things? And that's probably my biggest fear, is that it may expand. Let's say, like, they're trying to make it as little or as least intrusive as possible. Like Pong talked about the 2K ads, which, if it's Gatorade, that's immersive. It's like what you would expect to hear on the broadcast when you're watching the game on ESPN, or if you're at the stadium, you might hear over the loudspeaker as far as some of the ads, or you're going to see the signs in the stands and things like that. So stuff like that makes sense. The initial stuff that they tried, of course, that was, definitely pushing it, especially considering they were one of the first ones to go to that $70 price tag for the game. But I think there's always that mistrust because of how microtransactions have been, and some of the ways they've found to monetize things in other games. I just always have that small fear in the back of my mind. But I think from an optional standpoint, definitely a good thing to make it a little bit easier for entry for some. Definitely not something I would want to bother with. I can only imagine, like, oh, you're waiting to get into the next match and they have this ad, and it's like whatever you were focused on as far as, okay, I'm gonna go to this spot for pick up weapons, but now this ad has got you distracted thinking about something totally different. It could definitely be a little disorienting to some extent, but I applaud them on trying things. But let's just keep an eye to see if it starts to become a thing, just like we have like ads on the dashboard, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I mean, it's not game breaking or the end of days kind of thing, especially if they make sense for like DLC and content that I'm more than likely going to be interested in or going to buy. But on occasion, you'll see an ad that doesn't seem like it's related to gaming in any way, shape, or form, and those are the things that I kind of hope that they don't try to introduce. But greatly appreciate your thoughts on that topic, guys, and let's see if there's any questions in the chat.
Yeah, we're gonna extend the show just a little bit to see if you guys have any additional questions. It's been a phenomenal show so far. Shout out to everybody. And I know I haven't really been, doing the shout outs, but I'll go back to a little bit. Go, Splendiferous. I know Ray, you've been in the chat. I did see Mr. Joanna Dark. Everybody who's popped in here. Speaking of Splendiferous, thank you for the $2 super chat as well. He did say, I'm glad Xbox didn't show anything at VGA. We come in. So shout out to you, Splendiferous. Appreciate you for the $2 super chat. So if you guys want to drop a question or two, we'll take a couple, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. If you guys have anything that we may have missed that you guys want to talk about. So we got something right off the rip. Shout out to Only on Xbox. Shout out to you. Thank you for the question. He said, did the panel talk about Microsoft being mad at FTC? Wouldn't hear them. No, we didn't get into the FTC stuff. We figured we get out a break or a week, but I don't know if anybody want to dive in on that. Just quickly touch on that. Pong, Fuzz, anybody? Umbra.
It falls in line with everything that we have talked about with the FTC and how they're handling this entire process. That this is agenda based, it's politically motivated, it's career motivated for Lena herself. And it falls right in line with what we've seen as far as the ridiculousness goes with regards to their entire complaint. Again, don't listen to us. Again, we're just gamers with opinions. Go listen to Hogue, who does this for a living as an M&A attorney. Go listen to other legal experts out there. I believe they also had a attorney that actually beat the FTC in one of their cases on one of the news shows come out and say it's all a little bit nutty to what the FTC is doing with regards to Microsoft and ABK deal. So I think this is, Brad Smith laid it out perfectly in all of his interviews. He's been doing a great job, hands down. But to not give Microsoft a chance to even address your concerns and even propose resolutions well beyond the norm. Again, this is we're in a whole new realm here. Microsoft, even though they know the law is on their side, the books are on their side, and they don't have to offer anything, they are still willing to do that for the good of this deal, for the good of, for the mindset of other players in this industry. That's why they offer 10-year deals to Nintendo and Steam and then Sony. And if reports are true, they even offered the chance for Sony to make a deal to get it into PlayStation Plus when it comes to Call of Duty. To go outside of the norm, up and beyond what anybody would ever expect from a company like Microsoft to do when it comes to this deal, when they're spending $70 billion, shows all of their intent. And for Lena Khan and her cronies over there at the FTC to simply turn their back and say, and obviously from the complaint, make the decision weeks prior to even getting to this point, speaks volumes. And it shows that all of us who have been talking about on podcasts, anybody who's been on Twitter following this stuff, whether you are sick and tired of it or not, if you've looked into it in any way, shape, or form, and you're not being intellectually dishonest or willfully ignorant about the situation, you understand that this was going to be the ultimate outcome from the get-go. Now, some of us had hoped for something different. Some of us had hoped the FTC would not go this route. But Lena made her points clear. And she made statements that we now know that stated, win or lose, they're going to take all major deals to this point. So, again, this falls right in line. And wasn't shocking to me at all when Brad Smith came out and said that they weren't even given an opportunity to respond.
All right, good point. So I think we're gonna go ahead and grab one more question here, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. Let's see. Oh, great question. Since we didn't get a chance to go over this, shout out to Bacon. Let me go ahead and put it up here on the big screen here. He said, "Do you think Xbox gets Diablo 4 on Game Pass if the deal isn't closed in time? Would be a huge bit. You goddamn right, it'd be a huge get." And I think we're all hoping, and our wallets as well, that it does hit, that this does happen at some point in time. Now, will it happen prior to the deal being closed? That remains to be seen. The game comes out. What's the release date for Diablo 4? Do we have one?
June, I think.
It's June, right?
June 6, 23.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's E3 time. Yeah, that's literally.
Oh,
E3
it is
time.
6/6. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
think
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. I didn't catch that
clever.
either. Yeah, it's pretty clever. But yeah, so that's E3 time. So we'll see. We don't know how how long this deal is going to drag. I know they do have something in August, correct? The deal, there's something going on in August.
I think
Yeah,
that's
if
when
it goes that far, that's when the hearing is within the FTC.
That's when the hearing.
correct.
Okay, so once again, we have a date, sort of. So I don't know if anybody, Umbra, you want to dive in on this?
Just to give a little elaboration. I mean, and what you were talking about in August is the date for the FTC. If it has to get to that point, they could take care of this situation beforehand and give some type of concession. They shouldn't have to, because like Pong was just saying, Microsoft is clearly in the right here. But if they decide to do it just to get this done and over with, it's a good chance that they'll go day and date into the service. But I would say even if they can't get it done, they can still pay off, ABK or Activision in this regard. It sounds silly, but they can pay them to have it put into Game Pass too. And I think they would. Yeah, I think they will one way or another. I think it'll be in Game Pass. Personally.
True. Good point. I think it will, as one, like you said, one way or another. I think it will end up in Game Pass, whether it's the day it comes out or 3-4 months down the line. I think that's something that they want to do. Definitely. So I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up with that. I know some of you guys had other questions. Save those questions for next week. Hopefully they're still relative, but it's been a phenomenal show. All of
We're
you
doing
guys.
a show next week.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry.
No, you're scaring me.
I mean, yeah, it is Christmas Eve, so we
Eve.
probably won't have a show next week. I'm sorry, but save those questions. We'll get to them at some point. But other than that, once again, it's been a phenomenal show. Been an amazing show. You guys in chat have been awesome. Once again, we'll start here with our special guest. It's going to be Infinite Umbra. Once again, brother, thank you for hanging out with us. Your first time here. I hope you had a good time. We'd love to see you back. I know the chat would love to see you back. Once again, chat, show your support Go on that. All the information is below. Go down in the description. Show your love. Show your support. Make sure you follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And thank you once again, Umbra, for us borrowing a couple of your hours here Saturday evening, man. But let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
Oh man, it was a pleasure. Again, thank you for having me, brother. My first time actually meeting and talking with you. Again, I did check out a previous show, I believe when Doom Cutie was on. But myself, I watch and entertain so many other podcasts, as Pong and others will tell you. Sometimes I miss out on some, but I'll make sure to try to keep you guys in the headlights as well. In my practice on Saturdays, it just makes it hard. But definitely going to make more of an effort to come through and kick it with you guys. Really appreciate it. I liked what I liked, by the way, and I'll just say this on the air. I like how you guys switched it up where you were doing the whole hosting thing and leading with the questions, and then everybody else got a turn to switch into giving the topic up. I thought that was kind of unique right there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Absolutely. And just want to thank you guys for having me. Thank you, chat, for entertaining my thoughts and coming through to support for my friends and such who came through. You guys can find me on Twitter under Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. You'll find me either way. And of course on Xbox Factor on Tuesdays at 12 Central. 12 Eastern, and on Xbox Infinite podcast on Fridays at 7 o'clock Eastern. And that's it. I mean, hit me up sometime on Twitter or something like that. Maybe you all can join us for our Halo game nights or something like that. I'm trying to see if we're getting down tonight. I doubt it, but it's a little late, but maybe we'll see.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, bro. Like I said, chat, you guys know what to do. We assemble like Power Rangers for the guests here. Show up, go show some support. He was here, gave us some phenomenal content, hung out with us, had a fun time. So shout out to you once again, Umbra. You're always welcome back, brother. So you never know when you get a random DM from me. So just be on the lookout. We all had a ball. I'm sure the fellas Absolutely. Here when they get to their turn, they'll let you know. But I enjoyed your presence here today, man. Added so much to the show. So once again, you're always welcome back, man. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us here once again. So Pong, go ahead and throw this over to you, brother. Another great show in the bag, my guy.
Yes.
Once again.
Great discussions tonight. Infinite Umbra, as always, brother. A pleasure to be on a show with you. Love your takes.
Thank you, brother.
Love your demeanor, and I love how you bring facts to the table. And again, the discussions are fantastic. So thank you for being here and giving us your time. It is always a pleasure, sir. And of course, PTK and Fuzzy, all love and respect, brother, for bringing that energy once again to a Saturday night, as we always do here on the Shop Podcast. Another great episode in the books, and I appreciate you all so much. And chat, again, whether we agree or disagree, that's what these podcasts are about, is open discussion. I'm glad you guys were involved. I'm glad you guys were having good conversations in there. Whether you think we're all full of it or whether you agree with it, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. We're a bunch of gamers talking about the industry that we're passionate about with big opinions. That's why we do what we do. And you guys are all a part of it. So thank you all for being here. Nothing but love and respect to all of you for being supporting every show that you guys do. So thank you all. Otherwise, you know the drill. Next week is going to be a big one. Follow me on actually, it's going to be a small one next week because of what we're leading into with Christmas Eve, but we're going to have some good conversations nonetheless. Follow me, Pong Soul on Xbox, Pong Soul on Twitter. Tuesday's Xbox Factor podcast. Double Barrel Gaming is the channel. Mr. Boomstick is the man. 5 days a week. I don't know how many shows he's got lined up. I believe he's probably doing 5 days next week, but check him out Tuesdays for sure for all good things green. Xbox Factor, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time on Tuesdays. Thursdays, Mav and I are back. We had to take the week off, but we are going to be back next week. So PM in the PM Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time, Fun Speculations channel. And we do have a guest this week, the one, the only, Mr. Cool Hand Luke of Game On Daily. Asa is going to be there, the one that tempers the sauce each and every week. He's always a great time, great dude. So we are going to have him on PM to PM, so join us then. And then, of course, Friday night, I believe at this point, Mav is still going to have a show. I probably won't be there, but of course, Xbox Ultimate, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Again, if you missed last night's show, you got to go check it out. It is one of the few times that we have a panel split over a topic, and it was fun. It was interesting. It went way longer than Mav intended it to, but we had a good time with it. And of course, we had a great guest on, Insane Cakes, who is a part of ZeniMax Online Studios. So he was awesome. He has to watch what he says. We pressured him a lot, put the spotlight, tried to get him to divulge information, but he held firm so he could obviously keep his job. But it was a great show last night, but that is going to be next Friday. Otherwise, no living split screen next week. I'm assuming we're not going to have the shop next week on Christmas Eve either.
Yeah,
so it's
no
going to be a
shop
little
next week
break
either, yeah.
for all of us. Yeah. So you all, if I don't talk to you before then, if you don't see me on a show, please have a great holiday, Merry Christmas, whatever you're doing, spending time with friends, family, watching football, eating too much, whatever you do for the holidays. Have a great one. Enjoy it. It is the golden age of gaming, people. So especially if you're getting that game time in, you already know it. Get out there, play what you love what you play, and I'm going to talk to you all real soon.
Awesome. Shout out to you, Pong. Once again, no show next week, man. So you guys enjoy your holiday, but let's go ahead and get this over to you, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, man. Let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
Well, just want to thank you guys for having me on tonight, and it was awesome having Umbra on here as well. Always love your perspective on things.
Thank you, bro.
But man, in the chat, thank you guys for the questions and interaction and checking us out, and for those who'll catch us on replay, greatly appreciate you guys taking your time as well. For anybody that wants to hear my endless rambles on anything gaming related, just follow me on Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on the Xbox Lunch Break Special on Double Barrel Gaming's channel on 12 noon on Monday. FSP later that night at 10 p.m. on Fun Speculations channel. That's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Breakfast with Boom Friday morning on Double Barrel Gaming at, once again, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Xbox Ultimate on Fun Speculations channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on his channel. And then, happy holidays, be safe, be kind, have fun, look forward to seeing you guys, not next Saturday, but the following Saturday for the Shop podcast. But, it was awesome being on here with you guys. And it's always great being here with my extended family with PTK and Pong. So thank you guys so much. And, look forward to the holidays.
Awesome. And your boy PTK Blam across the board, the show here at the Shop Podcast. I want to say thank you guys so much before we hit these holidays. It's been an amazing year here at the Shop Podcast, man. I do believe, I don't know if we'll get another showing before the end of the year, because I believe, isn't New Year's the weekend as well?
Yeah, New Year's is the weekend. So
weekend as well too. So
we'll see.
Well,
Steele and I are gonna do a show that Saturday. So I mean, it's the 30. It is the 31st. So it is New Year's Eve, depending on what you guys got to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we'll see. I'll you guys just keep it locked to Twitter. I'll update you guys. We'll kind of play it by ear. Obviously, I got Fuzz, Pong. We'll talk and see what their schedules look like, but we'll let you guys know and keep you updated. But tonight was a phenomenal show. Once again, thank you, Umbra, for hanging out with us, man. But you know where you can find your boy on Twitter. All of the information is down in the description below. So peace out, everybody. Have a phenomenal weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the rest of your night. We're out of here, everybody.
Later, guys.
Later.